What's going on, everybody? Today, I want to talk about the Lindsay Clancy situation because I wasn't really paying attention to it. I knew it was some sort of murder case that was nationally being covered. But I found out just over the last day or so, really just today, that a lot of women see themselves in Lindsay Clancy the same way a lot of Black Americans saw themselves in George Floyd. And I really wasn't aware of that. I thought it was going to be, and this is my fault, by the way, I'll take accountability. Just looking at it, like, roughly, I saw that the people that were outside the courthouse, they looked like, bigger liberal women. So I just assumed it was one of these things where, like, liberal women were being insane. But it's not that. A lot of women, including conservative women, actually see themselves in Lindsay Clancy, feel bad for her, and think that men don't understand what they're going through. So I really want to talk about that, not sarcastically, not rudely, but respectfully, thoughtfully. I've really gained a lot. I posted this on Instagram. I probably got over 1,000 comments within an hour. So this is probably one of my biggest backlashes I've gotten. And I really want to kind of go through the process of what a lot of women are feeling, because I didn't know that, but they see themselves in Lindsay Clancy. And this is sparking a national conversation on husbands, SSRIs, and really, I guess, postpartum or after birth care, because a lot of women suffer with a lot mentally, physically, etc. So let's have a real conversation about it. Let me know in the comment section as I'm loading it up. What do you think about the whole Lindsay Clancy case? I'll try to read a few comments before I start, but that's what today's show's about. Hopefully you guys enjoy, and it should be a wild one. I will come live and do a political show soon. Maybe at the end of this one, I'll answer some questions, but I'm due for really a long analysis on everything politically as well. I don't know. It's been like the same story on loop in politics. It's been pretty stale recently, so I haven't been inspired to do it live, but this one I am. So appreciate y'all. Hopefully you enjoy. Dreamer Podcast starts now.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
What's going on, YouTube? What's going on, Facebook? Someone said, I'm just going to read some comments before we start. Someone said, I thought you got abducted. No, I'm good. Thank you. Someone said, I'd never hurt my children. It's good to know. Appreciate that. Our society is so far. She ask for help for a bunch? Yes, I got a lot of the details of this, so I do know a little bit. I'm gonna play the clip that I made real quick, and then I'm gonna tell you what a lot of people are saying, because there's a little bit of a mixed bag. I think on Twitter, it's a lot of guys, and a lot of guys are just like, Lindsay Clancy killed her kids, and women are agreeing with it or something. And then you go to Facebook, it's a little bit of the older crowd, and most of them are just saying similar stuff. And then on Instagram, I noticed a lot of women were like, no, you don't understand the court case. And I guess for those who don't know, this is what's being alleged. At least there's a woman who was going through a lot. She was suffering. She was on a bunch of pills. She was seeking help. She was telling people that she was having these intrusive thoughts. So they were having conversations and stuff, her and the husband, with medical professionals. And I guess no one did anything. And then she ended up strangling her 3 kids. She admitted to strangling her 3 kids. The defense is saying that she's not guilty because she's pleading insanity, not because she didn't do it, but because she was insane. And a lot of people online are saying, well, some of them are saying they think that the husband did it. Others are saying, I think it was her, but it's justified, or it's not justified, but here, let me justify it, but I'm not justifying it. But here's why, I feel really bad for her. So it's created like a whole storm. Hopefully that like makes sense if you haven't heard of it. Because before today, I'd roughly heard of it. And then, I decided to make a video about it. And I've learned a lot more listening to people, researching more. And it's truly, truly fascinating, because there's a huge group of people that think that the husband actually did it, which, I don't know that I believe that, but I get that, that's just a conspiracy. Like, she didn't really do it. It was the husband. But there's a lot of women in the comments that are saying, I think she did do it. I don't think she did it. I think it was probably the husband. But if she did do it, I understand why. But it's not acceptable. But like, I really feel for her, and I feel bad for her. And it's like, wow, I just realized through talking about this, and I'm going to say all the angles too. I'm going to try to be as thoughtful and respectful as possible. The same way a lot of people freaked out over George Floyd. And I'm sorry if this analogy bothers some women or bothers people, but I'm going to make it anyway. It's not identical, but I think there's a similar emotion behind it. When what happened to George Floyd happened, a lot of Black Americans felt the pain of George Floyd. They felt themselves as George Floyd. So they, freaked out, and like a lot of the details might not have mattered so much, and maybe it did to them, but they really saw themselves as George Floyd. That's why they freaked out so hard. And with this Lindsay Clancy situation, if you go through my Instagram, you could read over 100 comments of women who see themselves as Lindsay Clancy. Maybe they had a bad husband, maybe they suffered a lot and had a good husband through postpartum. There's different reasons for feeling like Lindsay Clancy, but a lot of them do. Of course, they're not going to say like I exactly feel like her, because they don't. But that's why what is driving them to defend her. It's really happening out there. So I'm just going to play this clip, and then I'm going to tell you all the things that have been said to me about it, and try to just have an honest conversation about the differences between men and women, what women are saying. And I think one thing is definitely true that I'm hearing. A lot of women are saying men don't understand us. Men are not listening to us. They don't know what we deal with depression and, intrusive thoughts and, really suffering and being left by shitty fathers, etc. And I understand that. So let's have a real conversation about it, because clearly men and women are not the same. Men and women are not biologically identical, and women are suffering and feeling a lot of stuff that I think most men are not aware of. And I think this situation is really bringing it to the forefront, because I'm a thoughtful, compassionate person. And there's things that I agree with, but there's things that I vehemently disagree with. I'm going to stand on it. I'll be honest about it, but in the nicest way that I possibly can while not compromising. So here's the clip that I made, and I'll tell you the reaction it got and all the different comments it got. So here's the video that I made that sparked this conversation while I'm live now.
Show a high for Lindsay with the mental health. I don't know if you'll ever have this many women in one place at one time who may understand all of us on a level that others don't. So
seems pretty insane to me, but I can't say I'm surprised in this crazy world that we live in. And I've almost been ignoring this story because I feel like subconsciously I don't even want to know what these chicks are saying or thinking. I saw online somebody mentioned they don't think that there would be this big of a crowd, or these women would be there to support Lindsay Clancy if she had killed her dogs, which we'll never know. Of course, it's speculation, but I do think that that's probably true. What does that say about how people value humanity and human life? My first thought was, how many pharmaceutical pills was she on? And I wasn't shocked to find out that she was prescribed about 13 different psychiatric medications. 13 over 4 months. She was not taking all 13 at the time, but maybe about 3 or 4. And I think there needs to be a conversation around that. Obviously, most people by now know that some of these medications are doing some pretty weird things mentally to people. I get everyone's trying to cope with how crazy life is, but could they be altering people's mind in a way that it wouldn't normally twist? And what do you think about all of the women supporting Clancy? I saw this comment from Matt Walsh. He said, I would say that if you're a man and your wife attended this event, you need to immediately fight to remove your children from her custody. She is a threat to them and you, and I don't say that lightly. The problem is that every court in this country will side with her, not you, because women actually have the exact sort of unfair institutional advantage that feminists say men possess. What do you think about that? I mean, yeah, I would not want to see my wife or girlfriend attending this event. To me, probably be an instant breakup. I get having sympathy and empathy, but I don't think women were designed to sit on online Reddit groups justifying each other's psychotic behavior and digging a hole deeper further into insanity. And if you want to say that about men as well, I agree. I guess there's an internet group for everything, including women who justify offing their children. Pretty insane stuff. Probably not going to cover it that much more, so let me know what you guys think. I mean, I think it's a pretty tame video. I knew it would be somewhat controversial, and I knew that some women would disagree or some men would disagree. Like, that doesn't really shock me per se. But what is shocking, I would say probably like 80 to 90% of women came to my comment section and they're like, you're wrong about this. You're completely ignorant. You don't know what you're talking about. And now that I watched the video back, I was like, it really wasn't that crazy. Like, I didn't make some massive statements like, I think this and that. I feel like I laid it out, gave a few opinions on it, and then gave mine slightly. So now that I watch it back, I'm like, wow, I can't believe they like anytime you say something, some people think you're saying or meaning something else. They always drag it. And I guess with this Lindsay Clancy situation, what I'm seeing is that millions of women are seeing themselves in her. So if they had a man that sucked, if they had a bad experience with childbirth, if they had depression, if they had anxiety, if they've been on pills, if they've had intrusive thoughts, they're seeing they're trying to tell their story through Lindsay Clancy's story, the same way a lot of Black Americans were trying to tell their story through George Floyd's story. The same way probably a lot of men will try to, see their story through the husband's story, like, oh, this woman's crazy, like he was trying to get away from her. Everyone's going to try to weirdly see themselves in a character in this plot. And I think a lot of women, like I said, it's like, my story is her story, here's my story, that's her story. And it's like, okay, I get it, but at the same time, can we all say that it's not okay to strangle your children? Like, is there a place for that? So what I found was there were some comments that said, I don't think she did it at all. She's completely innocent. He's guilty because he killed the kids and she's like in a psychosis and she doesn't even know what she's doing, or, he framed her. And, let's let the trial play out. Everybody's entitled to a fair trial. I'm willing to look at the evidence. But some of the women saying that were also making the case saying, but if she did do it, then I understand why, even though I would never do it, but I get what she went through. And it's like, if you really thought it was the husband, some people do, right? Understandably, like they think the husband actually physically killed the kids and she's just covering for it. That's one thing. I don't agree, but I understand that angle of it, where it's like, I support her because I think she's completely innocent. That makes sense to me, even though I disagree with the premise of it, as far as like he did it. But at least it's like, I think I support her because I don't think she did it. In this situation, a lot of the women were saying, I do think she did it, but I still support her. So I was like, the people that think that the husband did it, will you at least admit and go through my comments and read hundreds of stories from women saying, I'm justifying what she did? I'm not saying that I'm justifying it, but, I feel bad for her. I think she's innocent. I think, that the system failed her. And I know people are saying that they're not justifying it because some aren't, but some are. And at least admit that a lot of people are actually justifying it, because the whole video, if you think about why I made it, there were women outside supporting her outside a courthouse. The word justify comes from the same root as justice. If you think she's innocent, if you think she didn't do it, if you think that because she's crazy or was on psychiatrics or she had a bad husband or he set her up, you're seeking justice. So you're justifying to some extent what happened if you're saying that even if you think that she did it, that she's not guilty because she was on meds, or he gave her the meds, or he slipped them in her drink, or the doctors failed her, the healthcare failed her, and that's why she did it. Or a lot of women were in the comments, go to my Instagram and read, and I'm not saying this like rudely, read all the stories, because some of them are valid, some of them are thoughtful, others of them, in my opinion, just show you the insights of what some women are thinking but normally don't say. But because they see themselves in Lindsay Clancy to some extent, now they're publicly saying them because they've all gotten together with other women who think these things, and now they're like, this is what we all think. And I was like, I appreciate you telling me. I had no idea. Like, I knew women and men thought differently, but I didn't realize it was so common to think that, she's this massive, massive victim, and that, it's like, I would rather, at least me personally, and this is a preference, like, for my girlfriend and wife, I would want her to look me in the eyes and say, no matter what we're going through, no matter what happens, no matter if we drink one night or we end up taking medication or whatever, like, no matter what ups and downs we have in our relationship, it's completely unacceptable to strangle your own children. And if my woman doesn't say that, I don't want to be near her. I tend to agree with Matt Walsh. I'm sorry, but I wouldn't want a wife like that. I wouldn't want a mother like that. I wouldn't want a girlfriend like that. And that's my preference. Like, I don't want a girlfriend that says, I understand why she did it, or, I had trauma in my life too, so I see myself as Lindsay Clancy. I've had trauma in my life too. I've been depressed. I've had really bad days. I've had intrusive thoughts that, were just like bad. And I just felt bad about myself and stuff like that. But I would never justify strangling children with all of that. And I would make sure that that would be like the number one, like, talking point of the whole thing. It's like, this is a similar logic that the left has on like murder people. They let him out of jail because it's like, oh, he killed, 7 people, or he stabbed 15 people, or he robbed, 20 different liquor stores. But The reason he did it is because he came from an abusive home and we feel bad for him and he deserves a second and third chance. And it's like that's what they do in these cities. And then these people keep committing crimes and kill somebody. So while it's okay and I understand why you have empathy and sympathy from somebody who came from a hard life, at the same time, are you going to live in a city where people are robbing and stabbing each other, or do you want to live in a safe city? Because some tough decisions have to be made. And this is even why psychologically a lot of women are Democrat. And when you say this, people cope so hard. They're like, there was this video of a bunch of like college chicks that were dancing and like, I'm saying like showing off. And all these guys were like, oh, liberals can't understand this. And I was like, dude, do you know that college educated women are the most liberal people out there? Like they're Democrats. Most of those chicks in the video are probably Democrats. Most 20 to 30-year-old chicks are Democrats. It doesn't mean all are, but it's like this cope that they're all Republican. No, there's a reason that people think liberal. Women have a lot of empathy. Women have a mother's mindset sometimes, and they don't want to make the tough decisions about how to clean a city like Los Angeles. So they say, these guys, they mean well, so let's let them out of prison. And this woman, she means well. She didn't really mean to strangle her 3 kids. She just had a bad husband who was cheating on her, which there's no evidence for that, by the way. He was doing all these things. He was neglecting her. Also, I don't really think there's evidence for that. Like there is evidence. I'm not saying he's a good husband because in my opinion, this is unprofessional and just a guess, but crazy attracts crazy. So it's hard for me to assume that the woman is batshit crazy and the man's just completely innocent and like a great guy who got stuck with a psychopath. I mean, it's possible, but chances are they were probably both crazy. And a man, as a husband, it is your job to lead the family. So I think you bear some responsibility, even if it's not legally. Like you should feel bad that this happened. But with all that being said, with this situation, it's like, what do you do if your woman is going through this? If you actually read what happened and you look through the evidence, they were reaching out to health facilities, to hotlines. Like they were taking this chick and the husband was attending in some cases or on the phone. Like it's not like he just threw her in a closet and was saying like, oh, screw you, I'm just going to go do this stuff. There were like months, maybe years, but like a long period of time, probably years, where they were trying to get help. And she was saying like, I'm having these thoughts about doing this and that, like committing crimes. She literally told people that. So here's my question. And this is like there's a lot of women in the comments who are saying, the healthcare system failed her because she reached out to them and they couldn't help her. What do you do when someone says that they want to commit crimes like that? Should they have thrown her in a loony bin? Most of these women will then say, oh, well, no, I don't think that's the solution. They think like a liberal. It's like somebody robs 50 stores and then he ends up murdering someone 7 months later. And it's like, should we throw that guy in jail? Well, no, because, we should just try to help him. Some people you can help. Some people you should try to help. Everyone you should try to help. But some people can't be helped. And then eventually you have to do something with them or take them away from their kids or else they're going to kill their kids. So with her, it's like there were signs that she was going to do it. She pretty much said she was going to do things like that multiple times to multiple people all the time. But they didn't. Like, do we even have loony bins anymore for people? Are you even allowed to take the kids away? Like, what are you supposed to do when something like that happens? It's like you don't want that to happen, but you don't want to take her away because you feel bad for her. Like I said with the whole murder thing, guys, if you think the husband did it, I don't care. I'm not like against that. I don't believe that personally, but let's just say you think that happened. That's not exactly what I want to talk about now, because I want to talk about the like 70 to 80% women who are saying, I think the woman did it, but I feel bad for her. That's more where I want to go with this conversation. If you want to believe that the husband did it and she's completely innocent, we can have that conversation at the end. But there's so many women also in the comments saying like, no, you don't understand. The husband did it. It's like, read my comment section, because this is what I want to talk about, the psychology of the fact that there are millions of women justifying why a woman might do that if they have a bad husband, justifying while saying there's no excuse for that. But at the same time, there is an excuse. And here's my excuse. And it's like, well, thank goodness you didn't do that to your children, because, we all suffer, but there is no justification for it. You can be empathetic and sympathetic to things that failed, but at the same time, put your foot down and say, well, that's also crazy. And there's so many people in the comments too that are just completely wrong about everything, which is with every topic. It's not a big deal. But, now that social media is giving everybody news, I think it's better than just the mainstream media, because the mainstream media lies about everything. But anyone can come to any theory. It's like Trump is QAnon, Trump is JFK Jr. He time traveled. He's saving us from 1776. It's like you can have that thought. You have the First Amendment, but with this sort of thing, people are like, oh, she's claiming she's not guilty. She didn't do it. She's claiming not guilty, pleading insanity, saying that she absolutely did do it. The lawyer saying she did it. She's saying she did it. So the not guilty plea is not her saying she didn't do it. The not guilty plea is saying, I'm batshit insane. I'm on pills. I asked for help. I told people I was going to do this and I did it. And honestly, I'm not saying that that makes her not guilty because I don't know the insanity plea and I'm not a judge, but I'm just saying it's like the evidence is that she did do it. Whether if you want to say that the husband was neglecting her, that the husband was a bad husband, that he shouldn't have left him with the kids alone, that he should have not done something with the pills or whatever. Now that's a different story and a conversation that I think the jury and the judge should look at to see what role he played in this, right? I'm not saying that he's completely innocent. I have no idea. We'll let it play out. But that's a different story from what I'm talking about right here. Someone said you're not reading or engaging in the comments with anyone. You're saying what you want to hear and understand. No, I absolutely have, Heather. I read hundreds of comments and I understand. Let me be as sympathetic and thoughtful as I can be right now because I did read a lot of comments. A lot of women are saying that it's hard being a mother. It's hard when your husband is neglecting you. It's hard because America doesn't give you a lot of time off from work and other countries do. And it's not only is it hard being a mother of a newborn kid, but it's hard being a mom when you don't have help, when you're depressed, when your body's going through hormonal changes and you have these thoughts and you're on pills or you're not on pills. It's just hard being a mom. It's hard giving birth. It's hard raising your kids. It's even harder when the government doesn't help you. It's hard when the health system doesn't help you. And it's hard if you have a shitty husband. I mean, that's the summary of every, comment, I would say. The most sympathetic and thoughtful ones that I understand that everyone was saying. I get that. I absolutely understand. On the flip side, there's a lot of guys on Reddit and whatnot that are incels and they say women are psychos. I don't, they only want your money. They only want this. They're this and that. I don't want kids. I just want to stay away from women because they're insane. And I don't believe that. I think people should try to get married and find a wife. But, there's ways you could justify anything. It's like you could justify someone being an incel. You could justify someone being depressed. You can justify men who are black pilled. You can justify being a bodybuilder. There's women who will say, it was tough being a mom, but I would never do that to my kids. You have other women who are saying, I get exactly what she went through. I went through a similar thing. Like something almost happened to me. And it's like, I get the thoughtfulness of it. It's a very complex situation because, the health system does fail people. The pharmaceuticals, there's too many pharmaceuticals. So the fact that she was on like dozens of pharmaceuticals and 3 or 4 when it happened, it's too many. I mean, I don't think anybody should be on 4 pharmacy pills at the same time. I think it does alter your mind. I think there is a conversation to be had here about America. That's why we voted for Donald Trump and make America healthy again. RFK was supposed to do something about that. So, like I get what people are saying, but also at the same time, I'm saying here, the reason that people are making all of these situations, I'm reading all of the comments. Women see themselves through Lindsay Clancy, the same way a lot of Black Americans saw themselves in George Floyd. Does every Black American do fentanyl and do the crimes that George Floyd did before he died? No, but that didn't stop them from seeing themselves in George Floyd because they're suffering. They're suffering mentally. In some cases, they're suffering physically and financially. So even though they're not George Floyd, they saw themselves through the lens of George Floyd and then used George Floyd as a vehicle to promote all the things that people are ignoring that they feel. The same way that that's happening, women are using Lindsay Clancy as a vehicle to say all these things that they're feeling that they feel that nobody's helping with. And, I get it. I get why people are doing that. I think it's even crazier than a George Floyd situation to use this as a vehicle to do it. But, if you feel like you're crying for help and nobody's helping you, any vehicle is a good vehicle, I guess, to get your message out. I get that. I understand it. I'm listening. I'm sympathetic. But at the same time, I do feel like it's a lot of women that feel this way. And I think that men and women do think differently. They're like, men don't understand. No, most men do not understand you basically saying you understand why somebody did something completely evil. It doesn't resonate with a lot of guys, but apparently it resonates with a lot of women. And to be fair, There's women in the comments that are like, what, this is insane, like I can't believe it. But I would say more than any topic I've ever talked about, there's a huge gender discrepancy in the comments. I would say that probably 80 to 90% of women are saying, anomaly, I like you, but you're wrong about this. Anomaly, I can't believe you're not doing your research. And most of the men are in the comment section being like, this is completely eye-opening. I had no idea so many women felt this way. I had no idea the lengths that so many women would go to justify or defend this. And while some women are not justifying it, I think some of them are thoughtfully explaining like what they're dealing with, and saying why they feel the way they feel. If you look enough, there absolutely are a large portion of women who are defending this. They're saying things like, you don't know what psychosis is like. You don't know what depression is like. I do know what depression is like. I don't know if, shocker, spoiler alert to people, I'm not a perfect person. It's not like I'm happy every single day. I'm a very grateful, optimistic person, but I've gone through days, weeks, and months where I felt terrible, just like a lot of people, unfortunately. If you've never experienced that, good for you. I mean, hopefully you never do. Keep your mind and your body and your spirit strong, and you could avoid that stuff. But I have dealt with depression. Do I know what taking like 16 pharmaceuticals is like? No, because I've avoided that, because I've known since I was 12 years old that I probably shouldn't do pills. But to be honest, at one point, I did do pharmaceuticals, like not a lot or an egregious amount for like 20 years, but I've had bad experiences on pharmaceuticals. I've had bad experiences with pills. I've lived a long life, and I've made mistakes, and I've suffered. But I would never look at somebody strangling their kids and see myself through her. The same way I don't see myself in George Floyd. I don't see myself through the husband of Lindsay Clancy. I can separate my story with their story and be like, listen, even though we all suffer and go through stuff, and maybe women suffer more, um, there's really just no excuse for strangling your kids, even at your lowest point. Like, that's not okay. And this is where earlier I talked about it. Some women that are being logical are saying that the healthcare failed her. She said she was going to do sick stuff, and they just left her alone with her kids. So what if like child care took the kids away, or the husband divorced her and took the kids away? Most of the women would not want them to do that. Some would. I'm not going to put a word in everybody's mouth, but most of the women, it's like they live in this utopian society where Lindsay Clancy is just like this innocent victim, just like them. She's just like them. It could have been them. Could have been them that did that to their own kids, but it wasn't. They would never do that. But she's innocent because it wasn't her fault. And she had a really bad husband who flew and took vacation trips, so she had to strength. It's like, what? We could talk about horrible relationships and horrible things, but also say that that's not okay. And I think that a lot of women have a lot of messed up thoughts, to be honest, just like some men do. But I never understood why women like murder mysteries so much. I feel like they creep me out every time I watch murder mysteries. Like, some of them are cool, like Tiger King was interesting, and I do think that certain murder mysteries are fascinating. But I've always, like, women are glued to them. I'm not saying all women who watch them want to do that sort of stuff, but there is this fascination with that sort of stuff. And some say, well, I want to get into the mind of a sick man who does, stuff like that. So I know how really evil guys think. And that's absolutely plausible. I don't know. There's a lot of weirdo dudes out there. Men make up the most violent criminals. It's not women. So, maybe that's absolutely possible. But I guess I knew men and women were different. I knew people were crazy, and I knew women were crazy, but I guess I didn't understand how much they think like this until today. So regardless of people disagreeing with me, I'm actually glad to have this conversation, because, if we want to be honest about things, then everybody has to explain what they're thinking, and not explaining that and not being transparent with it causes more suffering internally, which leads to bad things. So it's better to like find a support group. But what I think is that, I'm trying to find a nice way to put this, because it's not true to everybody. Online, there's like there's going to be both genders who do, like, there's alpha man groups, there's beta male groups, there's incel groups, there's guys who hate women, there's guys who want to bang women. Like, you could find a group for anything. And I just want to be clear, it's not like I think only women are doing stuff. So it's like, there's a group for everything out there, and this is just the reality of the internet. But I think on the woman side, now that I've been critical of my own gender, there's a lot of groups of women that all they do is just justify their own bad behavior, their own problems. They just like, it's like misery loves company, and they just form these groups and like group thinks of like all their terrible bad ideas, when in reality probably what they should try to do is find a man that they love, work together to make each other better, and stop being so miserable and like insane. And it goes for men too. It's like, I want to find somebody that makes me a better person, and I want to make them a better person. I don't want to revel in a group of people thinking terrible things and making bad decisions and justify it just because I could find a million other people like me. So, it's like, I think that's happening with like a lot of women are like, see, that's, and it's like, I 100% get it. Some husbands are shitty. The healthcare is shitty. Um, I understand all those things, that people shouldn't be taking so many pills, but let's have a real conversation about what to do. For me, I think that she should have been thrown in a loony bin. I think she should have gotten help, but if she couldn't help herself, then someone needs to take the kids away, because she's going to hurt herself or the kids. Like, I don't want that to happen. I think that's like last case scenario. But if you have a woman like Lindsay Clancy, who's saying she's going to hurt herself or her kids, she's telling her husband, they're going to therapy together, they're doing this and that for months and years, and she's on all SSRIs. To me, it's loony bin time. It's time to take her away from the kids. It's time to get her some mental health. And if like, send her through a gauntlet of mental health. If she can't figure it out by the fourth or fifth gauntlet, then it's time for the loony bin. I hate to think that way, because it's just like, say a kid grew up on the south side of Chicago and he had no parents. His dad was a criminal. His mom, didn't take care of him. He was raised by the streets and he killed somebody. Do I have some empathy for a kid who had no chance in Chicago? Of course. But like, what do you do? Do you just say, well, what do liberals do? They do low income housing. They flood your neighborhood with people. Crime goes up, theft goes up. Those neighborhoods don't get any better. What do you do? At a certain point, you want to help. But then at a certain point, you got to be like, all right, this guy is just not fit for society. Like, it sucks. And that woman was really not fit to be a mother or fit for society. You could try to rehab, but if it doesn't work, some people need to go to jail and some people need to go to the loony bin before they kill themselves, someone else, or their kids, but nobody wants to say that. So I feel like, if you're going to have the stance that the health system failed her, should they have thrown her into a loony bin? If you say no, then what do you like? What do we do? There's a lot of people suffering. If you go to Los Angeles, all homeless people are suffering. They're all drug addicts. They're all mentally ill. Maybe they have a story, but most of them, it's drugs. Like, unfortunately, no matter what led them to that point, that's where they're at. And sometimes you can rehabilitate them, but a lot of times it's a choice. Why are some people super successful and why are some people, lazy? Why do some people work really hard and some people don't? Why do some people get jacked and some people get fat? A lot of people that are super jacked are crazy, but they just turn their crazy into like success. A lot of the biggest bodybuilders are self-conscious. They have mental problems, but instead of being fat, they just are so self-conscious that they just get jacked and they want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's never enough. So it's like, at least they're taking their problems and trying to turn them into something that benefits themselves or society. Like, we all have issues. I don't talk about my problems all the time on the show, but I've gone through a lot in the past couple of years. Maybe not as much as a postpartum chick on 15 pills, but you can meet someone at the gym who said, I was 400 pounds. Now I'm doing Mr. Olympia competitions. Turn your problems into something successful. Michael Jordan is a psychopath, but instead of murdering people, he decided to play basketball. Like, if you have an obsessive personality, you need to just try to use it in the right direction. And when it comes to certain people, there's bad wives, there's bad husbands. There are women who have literally destroyed men's life. There are men who destroyed women's life. But if that man or woman then goes and kills their kids, that's not an excuse. That's not an excuse. That's not a justification. That's not a reason. Because if you're going to justify that for her, then you could justify it for almost anybody. And that's what a lot of these women are doing, whether they want to admit it or not. They're justifying it for her. They're justifying it for any women. If a million women did this overnight, they'd be like, well, I wouldn't do that, but I get why they did it. I've been depressed. I've had intrusive thoughts. I'm glad I didn't do that, but I get where they're coming from. It's like, well, okay, so then where does this go? Like, like, why are you mad at my video? What did I say that was so wrong? You like, if you think the husband did it and it wasn't the wife, then I get why you're annoyed at my video. You're like, you're wrong. It was the husband. I don't think so. But if you think that, to me, at least that makes more sense, because now you're at least saying like it just wasn't her and you're framing her. That makes more sense than saying, and then, like I said, some women are in the comments saying, they'll write this long paragraph about why they think she did it and why, it's not justified, but then they justify it. And then at the end they go, that's if she even did it. I don't even know if she did it. It's like you were more inspired to write a massive paragraph justifying why she did it than you were to prove her innocence, because she admitted she did it. Her defense admitted she did it. They're not pleading not guilty because they didn't do it. They're pleading not guilty because they did do it, and they don't want her to go to prison forever. She wants to go to some sort of mental facility and get the help that she's been seeking. So, it's like, and if you want to even unravel it even further, I've talked about this with a lot of things. And I want to preface this by saying, because I think a lot of people that are Christian or conservative are just kind of douchey. They're just like always just like one way. They're just like, it's just women. I'm so perfect or whatever. I'm not a perfect person. I'm not pretending to be. I'm not like, everything right. Like I do things wrong like everybody. But I do want to be honest of like, there's things that are happening and things that should probably be working a different way. And I say this all the time. And now I'm seeing it with a lot of conservative women. I've said this for a while, but I think liberals are super liberal. And I think most conservative men are feminists and liberals, but they don't think they are. They're like, I just hired Susie Wiles. I'm not a liberal. I just hired Scott Bessent, the homosexual George Soros protege, who George Soros gave $2 billion to start a hedge fund. But I'm not the left because I don't believe in trans sports. And I'm like, you're kind of liberal to me. I'm not saying you can't hire a gay guy, but I think it's weird that you hired one that worked for George Soros if you're a right winger. I'm not saying you can't hire women, but like if you're doing all those stuff, like if you go back 60 years and you go from like 60 years ago until all of humanity, they would think you're a communist feminist. Like all of humanity had it one way. And then within the last 40 years, you're doing it this way. And the narrative is this is the right way to do it. And anybody who thinks otherwise is a bad person. So all of humanity, and this is what we're taught in the school too, all of humanity was bad. Everybody was evil. Marcus Aurelius, Plato, Sun Tzu, Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu. All these people are terrible and evil and misogynistic and sexist, but now we have it right. Now is where it is. And we don't need to reverse to then. We need to reverse to when, Caitlyn Jenner just came out but didn't want to play basketball. It's like this is what the average Republican thinks. And you're allowed to think that. And I think it's the smart way to think if you're trying to succeed in this world and not isolate yourself completely from everyone, because no one will understand what you're talking about. But for me, it's like, if you're a Christian, not saying you have to be perfect or anything, but there's a reason that things were the way they were. There's a reason that it says God, man, and woman. It doesn't mean women are worse than men. It's like for me, it's like as I get older, it's not great to just be alone a lot. When I'm younger and I'm working a lot, it's like I just want to be alone so I can hustle. But as you get older, it's like I'd be lying to myself if I'm like, yeah, I want to be 50 and be alone by myself. Like that's being a powerful man. No, of course I want a woman by my side. Of course I want a wife. Of course I want someone to grow old with and have kids with. Like some men, like you could cope and be like, this is the way I want it to be. Not me, you know what I'm saying? But if it's the choice of this and a woman who justifies killing her kids, I'll stay single forever. I don't want to, but it's like if 90% of women are like, I wouldn't do that, but I could see why she did it. Yeah, I don't want to be I don't want to date you or marry you. I want someone who looks at that and understands why there's no excuse for that. And none of us are ever going to do that. If that's not it, then I don't want somebody. But with all that being said, the same way that I could admit all that and be transparent and be vulnerable, women need to admit things too. Like women are not meant to sit in a group chat with other crazy women on Reddit and talking about all their crazy ideas. Okay, yeah, you could find 10 million miserable women who think the same things as you, or women who had a bad situation, and maybe that's a good support group. But really what you should want and what men should want is a partner that makes them a better person, is not having a shitty husband, is not having a psycho wife on 16 pills. Like this is what we should all strive for. It's not perfect. It's not like you can guarantee that, but like everybody's just kind of coping where it's like, Why do you think the Bible says what it says? Why do you think the founding fathers operated amongst men? It's not that women were just so horrible, but just like a man can benefit from a woman, a man by himself his whole life is not as ideal as a man with a woman having children. Like that makes your family complete. I could admit that. As somebody that doesn't have kids or a wife, I could admit that that's the ideal situation for a man my age or older, or even in some cases younger. But can women admit that like this like eighth wave of feminism is driving women crazy? Maybe like women always have crazy thoughts, but it's a man that kind of like in a family that puts them in a situation that makes them feel better. And a man, it's the same way having like strict parents can be good if they're the right type of strict. Like I think parents should discipline their kids. I don't think you should just let your kid be like an animal, because then your kid's going to grow up and be a piece of shit person. The reason that I have manners is because of my mother. My mom is super strict, and she has a really good set of morals, and she was really hard on me, and I'm really grateful, because if she wasn't that way, I would not be as thoughtful and as nice as I am. It's because of my mom. With that being said, it's the same thing with a relationship. Like a woman, like now all these women are like, I want to do this, I want to do, I get it. It like the same way a man, it's better to be single than with somebody that you hate that's like ruining your life. It's the same thing with women. Like women have had bad stories with shitty men, so they seek therapy and help in groups and with other women. But you know what I'm saying? I feel like this is all like happening because there is no like structure to society or humanity. It's like everybody's a feminist. Women are just like doing everything. And back in the day, there's pros and cons to everything. Like the con is if you're a woman in a bad situation, 200 years ago, it's harder to get out of, so a lot of women see this freedom as a good thing. Like, I don't want to be stuck with this guy. I'd rather divorce, or I'd rather like run away or go get a new guy, or I don't want my parents to set me up with somebody. I want to find my true love. Like it's okay to admit that there's pros of this society, but you're lying to yourself if you don't admit that there's some cons. And I think we're witnessing the cons, which is like eighth wave pharmaceuticals, eighth wave feminism, like, just a society that doesn't value family, a society that doesn't value women and birth. But it's built into like the workforce as well. It's like, we expect you to work, we expect you to do this, if you're feeling bad, take these pills. I agree that it's wrong, but there's still no justification for killing your kids. So I get it. I understand. I'm listening to people, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. I think the women that support Lindsay Clancy the most, and the ones that are justifying it or at least feeling bad for her, like I don't think they're willing to admit all the other steps that it might take to make a better society. Like, are you willing to throw her in a loony bin? Are you willing to take her away from her kids? Are you willing to admit that they had a lot of things better hundreds of years ago, and everything isn't like new and modern? It's like, wow, it's so great, from the time of Jesus Christ until 1970, 1980, like they were so evil and wrong, and now that women can play basketball like Caitlin Clark, it's like, yeah, that's cool. I like Caitlin Clark. Like, it's cool seeing women play basketball, but there was a reason to how things were going. And now, we're watching women strangle her kids, and then a bunch of women online like, I get why she did it. I wouldn't do it, but I get it. I get it. I get it. I've been depressed. I've been there, but I didn't do it, but I get it. It's like, and now it's like coming out where they're all like, yeah, we all feel this way. We all feel this way. We all feel. I'm like, whoa, I knew women were crazy, but I didn't get the extent. Yes, I get that men don't understand women. I completely agree. There's certain things that women are awesome at. There's certain things that men are awesome at. I love seeing women break records and, do incredible things. They're not going to do it in basketball because men are just better at that. Doesn't seem like they're going to do it in chess. Men are better at that too. And most things men excel at that are physical or mental. It doesn't mean women are dumb. Some men are dumb. Some women are super smart. But if we're going to admit that men and women are different, if you're going to look at me and say, you don't understand women because I understand Lindsay better than you, I get it. But then we have to have these other conversations. It's like, you're not as good at chess. You're not as good as basketball. You could look at like every physical and mental record that's pretty much ever been set. Most of it are by men. So now are we going to agree with that? And you're going to play a different role in society like you did from the time of before Jesus Christ until literally like 20 years ago? No? Well, then now, I don't know. So now you don't. you don't get, I don't know. It doesn't seem to be a two-way street. Someone said anomalies falling for a psyop. I'm not falling for a psyop because whether this is a psyop or isn't, it's bringing out a national conversation. So I'm not really, to be honest, obviously I'm interested in justice for the children who were strangled to death, and I want true justice to be served, whatever that is. But if you don't understand why this is a bigger conversation than whether this is or isn't a psyop, you're not listening. It's not a psyop that millions of women are telling you what they're thinking. They're crying for help, and you got to listen to them, whether you agree with them or not. Even if you disagree with everything I'm saying, I don't care. I'm not being sarcastic. Listen to what the women are saying. Like, this is how women think, not all, but many. This is how a lot of people think. It's not just liberals. This is a large portion of conservative women completely agree with the liberal women on this topic. The same way the Israel lobby has brought the left and right together in some way because they both identified that as a huge, influence in American politics. Just playing like, oh, you think this is a psyop? Whatever. Take whatever story you think about her. I like what's more fascinating to me, and the whole reason I wanted to come and talk about this was not to spread the psyop, to fall for the psyop, to get people to really care about the psyop. It's to have a real conversation about men and women relationships. And I just don't think people understand that men and women are different. But if they're different in these ways, can we talk about all the ways that they're different? Not to shame, not to hate, not to make people feel bad, but to try to build a society that actually makes sense so women aren't strangling their children, so women aren't on 16 pills, so the healthcare isn't ignoring you, because clearly, like, this struck a nerve. And whether you agree with what I'm saying or not, this talking point is true. Women see themselves, not all, but a lot of women are seeing themselves in Lindsay Clancy, like a lot of Black people are seeing themselves in George Floyd. That's what's happening. That's the truth. You can take from it what you want, but that's what's happening. When you look at what women are saying in the comment section about why they're basically saying they understand where she's coming from, they're not saying it in the sense of like, this is what she dealt with and I have no idea, but I get it. They're telling their story, and this is something that a lot of people do in general. It's natural psychology. Like if Aaron Rodgers comes out and says, I'm not taking the vaccine, I like that because he's like me. You know what I'm saying? It's like he's not getting the vaccine. He's standing up against the establishment. I don't see myself completely in Aaron Rodgers, but I see elements in it, and I like him because he's taking the same stand as me. So with Lindsay Clancy, like, that is what's happening. It doesn't mean they think it's okay to do that to your kids, but women, this has struck a nerve with a lot of women where this really like speaks to them. To most men, this doesn't speak to them. You know what I'm saying? Like, this wouldn't, like, someone's like, what do you think about this case where a man did this? I think it's completely insane if a man ever kills his kids under any circumstances. I don't care what he's dealing with. And I don't see myself in that guy at all. I've had, like I said, I've had depression. I've had issues, but I don't see myself in someone who killed their kids. Women are seeing themselves in somebody who killed it. Like, that's just the reality of it. It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you agree completely with it, but there's levels to it. Like, I do not see myself in a guy who would do the same thing because I've felt depressed. Like, I don't want to tell my story through that guy's lens. It's just, that's not what inspires me to speak up. And someone was saying, like, if a guy did this, we'd be in front of the courthouse too, supporting. And I'm like, so this is your activism? Like, everyone has their activism. Some people it's clean water. Some people it's like stolen elections or, anti-lockdowns. Everyone has their hill that they like to stand on. But I think when it comes to this, like, this is what gets it. The same way you don't have to agree with how a lot of Black Americans reacted to George Floyd. Most people that are conservative thought it was absolutely insane. But it's not about what George Floyd did. It's about what they're feeling, and you're not listening to them. So they wanted to rage out. Listen to me. This is the pain that I'm feeling. This is the emotion that I'm feeling. I'm feeling a burden racially that you guys don't understand, and George Floyd was the catalyst of it. Most people protesting were not exactly like George Floyd, but they sympathize with George Floyd because they're feeling a similar hurt and pain, and they justify their actions based off it. It's the same thing that women are doing with Lindsay Clancy. They're feeling a similar pain. They're feeling similar thoughts, and they want to rage out now and or at least be heard now because they are using this moment as a catalyst. Like, it is what it is. Like I said, But that's kind of how I see it. Someone said I'm 67, and when I had my son at 23, I went into a terrible depression for 7 months. Hold on, I wanted to read that real quick. And I did feel like I could harm my son, even though I loved him dearly. I got help immediately. It took a while. Thank you for sharing that story. And honestly, like I'm not saying this to be rude or mean. I know at some points it might seem that way or something, but a lot of women feel this way. And like I think like Lindsay Clancy murdering her kids made a lot of women be like, listen, I know what she's going through. Like I'm not like this need, and it is like a cry for help. Like, you wouldn't want to share that story unless it was true. And if it is true, it's better to be honest about than not being honest about. Like, men don't know what it's like to give birth. Men don't know what it's like to have your hormones switched. Men don't know what it's like, what depression feels like, but you don't necessarily know what like giving birth to another child, having your hormones switched, and then being on pharmaceuticals or whatever. Like, we don't know what that's like. But to most men, you have to understand why it's a little concerning to know that so many women think this way. It's not like I'm mad at people. I'm glad. Even all the comments, I don't care if 90% of women disagree with me. I'm glad. I wouldn't say I'm excited, but I'm not looking to Trump, Iran, he's lying again. He works for Israel. We know that, right? This might not get that many views as far as like a live stream, but you know, I'll talk about politics later this week because there are some interesting stuff, but like we just need to know what we're thinking. And like to a man, it's insane to think that, but to a woman, it's not insane because a lot of them have thought these things. Am I saying it properly? Is it coming out wrong? I don't really know. Someone said that's why you need a strong and solid husband next to you. Yeah, I think that's probably the best option. But unfortunately, life's not perfect, and everyone can't have the perfect spouse all the time. Um, Someone said she sent her husband away so she could murder her kids. She's an evil witch. It's what most men think, but most women don't think that. What I will say too is like I'm not going to act like I'm the biggest expert on all of this stuff, but a lot of women are kind of inventing their own narrative in order to make it like it's a very selfish thing. Like, I think this might be how it is because I want to. I'm not saying this is a good guy. I'm not like he's a hero, he's an angel, but if you really look, it's not like he just left her alone at the start and was like, "Oh, like they did therapy, they did mental health. She went to places. Like, they did all of those things and it wasn't working." So as a man, I mean, I guess you could like divorce your wife, you could try to send her to a loony bin. Maybe he's crazy too and he belongs in a loony bin too. I don't really know, but I feel like a lot of what women are saying in the comments, like I'm checking all these things because I'm like, listen, I'm skeptical of a lot of things, but there's like no evidence for 80% of the things that they're saying. It's just like I think that he probably did this or that, or maybe he switched the pills. Maybe. I'm not saying it's impossible, but like I don't know. Like, what do you do if your woman is like crazy? Like, I don't, like divorce, loony bit. Like, there's only so many options. Like I said, I don't know that he was perfect either, but how many years of this do you deal with? Like, are you never allowed to leave her? Like, I don't know. It's a tough situation that I'd hope I never want to think about. But someone said she lured the two older ones into the basement. Imagine that nightmare. It's demonic. And as a spiritual person, I think it's beyond like depression. I think in moments of weakness, you can be possessed, and you could be taken over. And I think she was like literally not just depressed, but she was possessed. And I personally think that some pharmaceuticals, not all, some pharmaceuticals can be good, but some pharmaceuticals are opening demonic portals in people. I know that's a conversation people aren't ready to have, but it's like that's definitely possible. Someone said my daughter was severely depressed for a year or so after kids, hormones trying to rebalance, postpartum depression. It's super sad. I guess we just need to figure out how to make women feel good and not want to strangle their kids. Like, and I'm not joking, I'm being serious. Like, I think I think that women think these things, but they've never said it because it sounds insane because it is. But now that this is like a national story, they're all letting you know. But it doesn't mean that women are just horrible and all of them. It's like, I get why people might think that, but I think it's more of like they're suffering, they're going through something biologically and mentally, and there's never been an outlet for women to explain this because it's not like a national topic, that it's like Iran war, this and that. And not to get political, but purposely getting political. This is why Trump is supposed to make America great again, not to figure out what's going on with women after birth, but we're supposed to focus on our country, the pharmaceuticals, the healthcare, not how to blow up Iran because Israel paid Donald Trump a lot of money, or Israeli, dual citizen donors paid him a lot of money. It's like, this is like, now everything has to be about Iran, the algae pool, and Jared Kushner totally not profiting off the Middle East. It's like, there's no national conversation about anything. So to be fair, I get why women are talking about it now, because it's probably something that women have thought about, but only talk about amongst themselves because it sounds insane to men, and now there's a reason for them to tell the public how they're feeling. So you got to be able to express yourself when you can, because it's not every day that the whole nation is looking at a thought that you have that nobody knows, because I don't know. I'm going to read some comments now. Someone said, I'm blown away that someone would use depression as an excuse so everyone who feels depressed can do that. No, I don't think they should or could, but that's what a lot of women are saying. And I want, don't believe what I'm saying, because if you go to my Instagram comments, there's probably thousands at this point. There were like 1,000 when I started making this video in an hour. I was shocked. But some women are making valid points thoughtfully. Some women are saying that they think the husband killed the kids physically. Some women are saying that they think the husband killed, or the husband enabled the woman to kill the kids by giving her pills and switching the pills. Some women are just straight up justifying it. There's a variety of everything, but there's hundreds of comments of women saying, I understand where she's coming from. I'm not saying there's an excuse for it, but I've been depressed and I've had bad thoughts. And we're not saying that we think she should have done it, but we're just saying that we think she's innocent because the husband manipulated her. He was a bad husband, or he cheated on her, or, the healthcare failed her. So you can find it all, but I don't want you to believe what I'm saying. Go read the comments for yourself, because you'll see smart ones, you'll see crazy ones, you'll see this, you'll see that. And the women that are saying that the husband did it, they're ignoring the thousands of women saying that we think the woman did it, but here's why we understand. So it's like, if you think the husband did it, okay, but look, this is what I'm talking about. I get, there's going to be a trial, there's going to be evidence. I'm fine with everybody having an opinion, whatever. But this is the concerning part, is not that one woman did something crazy. I mean, that is very concerning, but the concerning part is that there's millions of women that basically, they don't think it's okay, but they understand it, and I get understanding things, but it's like a George Floyd level of understanding where they're like, I understand what George Floyd was doing. Now I'm going to run through the streets and I'm angry because I have feelings too, or I'm mad. I get it. I understand that you're mad, but I guess there's some people that are making sense, and there's some people that are just, in the opinion of many men, crazy. And a lot of men have thought this, and just like a lot of women, there's groups online for everything. There's groups online that say all men are bad, all men will cheat, all men will do this. And there's a bunch of women now that think every man will cheat on me, so I might as well cheat because they'll cheat first. And it's like, you could find a group for anything. Then there's a homemaking wife who says, my husband's perfect. I'm going to knit and have kids and live on a farm and everything's kosher, or everything's Christian, whatever. And then you have groups of women that are there's all sorts of groups. And I think this is bringing out a certain group, that has always existed, but they're talking amongst themselves and being like, that makes sense. It's like, if you've ever met I've met a lot of women in my lifetime, but sometimes they have bad habits, just like men have bad habits. And it's like, if you're a man and you want to date somebody, but you want them to be better, I'm sure there's women watching this where you like somebody, you thought he was charming and attractive, but he just had bad habits and he was just kind of like underachieving and being a loser. And you're like, damn it, I want him to not be a loser, but he wants to keep being a loser. There's women like that too. And it's like, sometimes you just can't change that, but there's a group for losers that a bunch of them come together and say, no, you're not wrong, just constantly be annoying and shitty and do all these things. It's your partner who's wrong. There's a group for everything like that. So I know with women and men, there are these groups, but it's like women, we're living in a world where everybody has the technology to research and talk about everything all the time. And I think it's interesting, but we have to admit that some people are just not on the right path. I want to read this one. Someone said, huge fan of Anomaly. However, women aren't justified killing their children. Some are. That's not true. Women understand how this happened. Postpartum depression and being on multiple drugs can cause psychosis. Okay, so let me just say two things and then I want to read your comment. First of all, you may not be justifying it, but there are people justifying it. They're saying she's innocent. The word justify comes from justice. If you think she doesn't deserve to go to prison, that means that you want justice for her. You are justifying it. That's literally what you're doing. I'm not saying you specifically, but justify comes from justice. If you think me personally, I think she deserves to go to jail forever. I think she deserves to be locked away somewhere far, far away from humanity. That would be justice to me. If justice for you is saying, you know, understandable, it wasn't her, it was the pills, it was the depression, then justice for you is her being innocent. So let me know. I'm not mad at you. I'm just wondering. And also, I guess my question is like, what do you think they should do? Like, what do you think her punishment should be for killing her kids? Do you think she should go to jail, get the death penalty, or do you think it's like because you said you understand how this happened? I understand a lot of things. Like I understand why some people do crazy stuff in cities, but I still want them to go to prison. Like you could say that for every person. You think people who like kill people or just have like a normal life? Usually no. But like are you going to go to New York City the next time somebody commits homicide on a train and be like, I understand why he did it because he came from a bad neighborhood. Okay, so what? We get it. Yes, that's horrible. So what do you want to do? Do you want to flood nice neighborhoods with low income housing and try to, change the scales of things? They're doing that. It helps some people. It hurts probably more than it helps. But there's real conversations that need to be had. Someone said it's unacceptable. I'm not denying that. This may have been her choice if her brain was broken. But like, at what point do you take accountability though? Like, you could smoke crack and go do something on a train and say the crack did it to me. But this is like a literal, thank you, Holly. This is like a conversation of like, so should a woman at her age know to not take that many pharmaceuticals, or is everyone who ever takes a pharmaceutical now not responsible because the pharmaceutical did it? I think they're terrible, but at a certain point, like who does she take no responsibility? Like there's a lot of things about, someone said this isn't the same as letting out violent criminals from a harsh background, but it kind of is though. Like I personally think that the reason, like the same way that a criminal, if they committed 15 crimes, but they let them out of jail and then they murder a family, I do think that the judge bears some responsibility. With this lady, she told them what she was thinking, and they didn't throw her in jail or put her in a loony bin. I think they should have put her in a loony bin. I'm just curious. Do you think they should have put her in a loony bin beforehand? Like locked her away from society, far, far away from her kids, taken her kids from her and put her somewhere? Someone said, look at her medication records. I understand though, but so should anyone, is there any autonomy at all for any person in this world? Like, should everyone just take pharmaceuticals and use it as an excuse for whatever they do? Because there's probably millions of people who also took those pharmaceuticals and didn't do that. It's like, yeah, pharmaceuticals are not good, but not every single person doing them is doing these things. It's a combo of a lot of things. It's being already messed up mentally, probably, and then combining it. It's like if I drink alcohol, right? If I drink 15 things of alcohol, I don't act a certain way. Like I get really loose and fun, but I know some people, they get weird when they drink 4 drinks. They get angry. That was always inside of them. I don't get angry at all when I drink. Literally not at all. Cause I'm like internally behind who you think Anomaly is. I'm not an angry guy, but some people are secretly, and then they drink and it comes out. I think a lot of pharmaceuticals are similar to that. Like people have like it doesn't, it's not like everyone taking them does it, but if you're a messed up person, it's probably not going to always fix your problems. They prescribe too many. I agree. I completely agree. I think every doctor's not every doctor, but I would say a majority of doctors are prescribing too much. What are we going to do? I voted for Trump hoping that RFK would fix this problem. He's not doing anything. So now what? Like no doctors getting held accountable. Fauci's not getting held accountable. Big Pharma's not getting held accountable. It's status quo in America, and you know RFK can't seem to fix it. So what now? Someone said everyone is trying to speak. Someone on Facebook said everyone is trying to speak about something with zero experience. It's true. Most people watching this stream, if not everyone, has zero experience in strangling their kids. Thank God. Do you have experience in that, or what are you saying? You have experience with taking too many pharmaceuticals, and like I understand that it's bad to take too many pharmaceuticals, but that's not something you want experience in when it comes to a woman strangling her children. Like there are millions of people who take pharmaceuticals and don't do that, like millions. So for like the fact that she even had 14 pills, I'm not opposed to saying that the doctor should be brought into the courthouse. Like to me, doing 3 or 4 any meds, like to me that's insane. I think every doctor should have to speak on that. I'm not opposed to that. Just like if a crack dealer gives a kid crack and it's laced with fentanyl, like did he kill him? Pretty much, but also the kid is now dead, so he made a mistake too. Like I get it, and I'm trying to follow where you're going. Michael said women are full of excuses. I mean, I get what they're saying, but I don't get where it's going. Like what now? Like someone said she should have been evaluated in a mental health hospital. If you look up her record of how much she went for help, it's a lot. I think they should have locked her up for sure. In something. Someone said the fact that she tried to prevent it, I don't think her penalty should be that harsh. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but what I would have to look at, like, did she say like lock me away, and they were like, no, go hang out with your kids, like, or was she just saying like I have these thoughts, like, it's I get why everybody's talking about it. It's sparking a national conversation that is justified. I like it, there's a lot of things that this is sparking out of people. It's good to be transparent with stuff. When everyone's being secretive and feels crappy, but nobody talks about it, like that's not good. So, I'm not mad at the conversation being had. It's just a matter of where it's going. But yeah, it's like there's you can, this is another thing with free will. There's good and bad parts about anything, of course, but say free will, like I could drink myself to death and just drink like 15 bottles of vodka tonight. I'm not going to do that though, but they would sell those to me. Like I could go to stores and get it. Yes, I'm one of the most anti-pharmaceutical people out there. But like there also needs to be self accountability where you don't need to take that many. When I'm the most depressed that I've ever been, I don't just take 14 pills. And if you do, then you took the pills, and you're going to have to live with the result of taking that many pills at one time or over the course of 2 years. That's like how the world works. Like everyone has choices, it's not easy. Some people have easier lives than others, but I don't know where people are going with this. Someone said Lindsay spent nearly 5 days, 4 nights at a psychiatric hospital before the January 2023 killing. Not long enough, and 2 weeks top. Brain drugs take full month effect. I don't think they lock people up as much as they used to. I mean, there's also like too much. I don't know if I would say political correctness, but back in the day, if someone was clearly insane, they would just like throw him in a loony bin, and everyone was like, "Yeah, no, that guy was insane." But now, everybody has rights and freedom, and it's like, yeah, I'm crazy, and I just said I was going to do this, but I have the First Amendment. I get it. I'm a freedom person, First Amendment, liberty, but I don't know. Like when I go to Los Angeles and I see the types of people on the streets, I'm kind of like, you have the right to take a crap in a public park. Like that doesn't really make sense to me. You have a right to defecate on a street that I need to walk down to go to work. You have a right to destroy public property and just take over an entire like neighborhood, but I don't have the right to collect rainwater or like build a house somewhere. I need to get like a functional person needs to get government like government approval to build a tree house, but there's crackheads that deserve to be put in a loony bin or jail, just like crapping on the streets of major cities. Like I'm all for freedom, but at the same time, there needs to be some sort of enforcement and discipline. And if somebody says something crazy and they throw them in a loony thing for 5 days, they used to do it for like 5 months or 5 years. Like you can't do what you used to do because there's going to be I guarantee if they tried to take the kids away from that woman and made it a national story, some of the same women that are justifying what happened, they would be out there saying that she doesn't deserve to lose her kids. Like, just, put her in a loony bin for 4 days and take her out. She'll be fine, or a month. You understand what I'm saying? Like, this is a conversation that needs to be had, because it's a gray area. Like, whether people want to admit it or not, some people can't function in society. So what do you do? Someone said you're flight or fight, flight or flight. Like, if you don't want her to do that, then you also have to say it's okay for some people to like go away for a long time. But if how many, we can't do this experiment, but how many of the same women that are saying, I'm not justifying what happened, but I understand it and I don't think it's really her fault, how many of them would be fine with locking her in a loony bin for years? Probably very few. I guarantee that 80% of the same women justifying this and saying they're not justifying it would also be unhappy if a woman, like, a little crazy, like, why would you take the kids away? I was a little crazy when I raised my kids. I was depressed. I had intrusive thoughts, but my daughters turned out great and my kids turned out great. Like, the same woman would be saying that if they try to take her kids away, because you don't really know what she was going through unless you also strangled your kids. If you strangled your kids, then you know what she's going through. If you didn't, then you don't know what she's going through, or what happened in her head, because you didn't do that. So if you didn't do that, like, I don't understand why so many people think that her story is their story. I think what is happening is a lot of people have a lot of trauma and a lot of issues and a lot of bad past that they've never been able to tell people. So when something like this happens, they want to share their story, which is fine. But it's like, my story is not Lindsay Clancy's. I don't think your story is Lindsay Clancy's. And I don't think most Black Americans have the same trajectory as George Floyd did, especially the ones protesting in the streets. But if everyone wants to pretend like they do, then we can do that. But, Johnny B. Good said this country's gone downhill ever since women's rights. I think the more women talk about how they feel about this, the more men are going to think that, and it's driving a wedge between the genders, because the women are like, we've been waiting to tell you how we feel. We've been talking about this for years in groups, but now we're going to tell you publicly. And most men are like, yeah, repeal the 19th. I'm just being honest. Like, I'm seeing the conversations. I've never seen such a divide between like women standing on what they believe and then men being like, yeah, I had no idea you were this crazy. Like, I knew you were crazy, but not this crazy. So, like, that's just what's happening. I'm reading the room. With the pharmaceutical thing, though, yeah, I get it. I get that they shouldn't be prescribing those things. It's not good. However, either you persevere or you do that to your kids. Like, I don't know what to really say. Someone said that's not true, because things like this aren't done out of hate or revenge. It's called snapping for a reason. So I just like, and I'm not mad at you. I'm grateful for you, but I want the women saying that people aren't justifying this. I want you to realize that, like, people are. Like, I'm not saying you think it's okay, but you like, justifying means what you're doing, pretty much. Like, not like, oh, it's the right thing to do, but it's like, I wouldn't do it, but you're like, yeah, it's called snapping for a reason. Sometimes you just lose it. So if a guy loses it and knocks down the Twin Towers, are you going to say, he just snapped? No one would say that. Like, and for those saying it doesn't relate to like criminal cases, it does. It is a criminal case. It's literally the same thing. It's like, you could make that excuse for everyone who robs a store, everyone who kills somebody in a major city, everybody who throws somebody in front of a train on a subway, everyone who commits an act of terrorism. You could say the same thing. They just snapped. They just lost it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I get it. So do all the people on the streets of Los Angeles. They all lost it at some point. They all snapped, and now they're like zombies on the street that are just defecating all over the city. I understand that. I have sympathy, but at the end of the day, do you have more sympathy for people that don't do that, or do you have more sympathy for people who do that? Because there's always going to be a gray area, but in the cities, they have more sympathy for the criminals and the crackheads than they do for the people that are actually working hard to not destroy things. And it's the same with welfare too. Like, if welfare were being used to help really, really, really poor people get out of a situation, I would be for all of the welfare. That's fine. But that's not what's happening. It's like now it's basically you're just sucking out of people who work, sucking out of people who are middle class, sucking out of people who are lower class, and you're giving it to people who, not all, but many, act like leeches. They don't want to work. They don't want to, generate revenue for society. They don't want to do anything. They just want to game the government. So, it's like I like the idea of welfare, but right now it's destroying our country. It's not the only thing. It's not like poor people are bad and there's a lot of things messing with our country, but not being honest about welfare is screwing over people. And you could look at certain groups of people and certain demographics, how much they're paying taxes and how much they're taking taxes. Certain groups of people are paying a crap load of taxes and not getting anything. Certain people are taking a lot of taxes and not contributing a lot. That's the reality of the situation. It's every aspect of everything can be seen through the lens of the victim and seen through the lens of the other victim. Like now, like do you want to bend society for murderers, criminals, and women who strangle their kids because they take pills, or do you want to bend society for the women and mothers who don't do that and protect them from the people who have these thoughts? Like these are tough conversations, but either you bend one way or you bend the other. Like there is no like utopia, unfortunately. Someone said she should be held accountable and should, but I also think pharmaceuticals in our society in general need to be talked about and exposed. I completely agree. There's nothing I disagree with that statement. Someone said explaining how something happens is no way justifying anything. But what's your point of explaining how it happened though? Do you want me to write an article about why Israel did this to like a child, or why this terrorist group blew up a school, like, or there's reasons for everything, but why are women so inspired to explain away why someone strangled their kids? There's a reason for everything. There's like, yeah, I get it. Like why is the crime rate so high in these cities? There's a lot of ways you could talk about it. Some people would say the reason crime rates are high in cities is because this group has been oppressed and they're the victim and everybody else is screwing them over. And in a perfect world, they would never do that. That's one theory, right? And everybody's allowed to say it. But when you really look at it and you're really honest about it, while there are elements of that are true, at a certain point, some people come to this country poorer than them, don't speak the language, have no advantage whatsoever, grow up in the same neighborhoods, and make their way out of it and build societies instead of destroy them because they have a better mindset and they have a better family structure. So, at a certain point, it's just not really true. But everyone's entitled to their theory. It's the same thing about this sort of stuff. Women are trying to make excuses for why she did it, but maybe she was just psychotic. Maybe that's why. But like I said, there are millions of people taking pharmaceuticals. They're not all. Every woman who takes as many pharmaceuticals as her doesn't strangle her kids. It doesn't mean I like pharmaceuticals. I hate them more than anybody. I think they're absolutely causing mental issues for people and all this sort of stuff. But I'm not like, how long are you going to spend making excuses for it? I don't understand. I'm not inspired to do that, but women are. They're very inspired to do that. And not all, but a lot, it's just the reality of it. Someone said, why is it easy to explain away male predators? But nobody does that though. I mean, maybe in politics, people are doing that because they're implicated and everybody's like, that's insane. Like everybody wants to talk about the Epstein thing and the blackmail and everyone, like there's a very small group of people It's not like 100% of men are like, I get it. Nobody's doing that. Maybe like less than like 5% of men are doing that, and less than 5% of women. I think it's over 50% of women doing this for her. So it's like, in order to justify why you're explaining away why a woman strangled her kids, you're making up a hypothetical that doesn't even exist at all. Like, nobody's doing that. No men, like there is no massive movement of that to any sort of level that this is at. Um, like, it's not happening. I said that like women weren't designed to sit online and talk to other crazy women and justify their behavior. And someone came in my comment section on X and said, Anomaly, I'm so mad that you said that. What would you say if I said that about men? I was like, I completely agree. I would agree. Men are not built for a bunch of crazy, annoying guys to sit online and justify their psychotic behavior with other men. You think, like, why would you think that I wouldn't agree with that? So I find it's the same thing with anything. The people that are getting the most offended, they see themselves in Lindsay Clancy. They see themselves in what I'm saying. I don't sit online with a bunch of guys doing stupid shit and justify it. I mean, I do sit online doing stupid shit. It's called politics and it's retarded. But, it's like the awareness of what I'm doing. It's not like only women could do that, but like only women getting mad at it are the one. Like, why does that offend you? Saying that, it's the same thing with Lindsay Clancy. Like, people, they're not going to admit it, but they're more inspired to basically defend it. I don't. Someone said you should read some books about blank history and mental health. Why though? Why should I read? Like, I believe that the thing you just wrote is horrible. I don't need to read a book to know that. But why can't you admit that about what she did? Like, we're not on the same. You're naming these horrific things as if I don't know that they're horrific. I know that they're horrific. I completely think it's terrible. And like, I don't like, I don't get it. I don't understand where this is going. Someone said if you sympathize with murderers, then you're just evil. I personally, like I said, this is all I'll say. Maybe it's not all I'll say because I'm live, but I would not personally want a girlfriend or a wife, and I would not consider dating someone who spent more time justifying or sympathizing or empathizing over Lindsay Clancy without the ability to say that that's super, super evil and messed up, and there's literally no excuse for it. And that's my choice. Just like you could marry or do whatever you want with whoever you want. That's my choice. I would never, like, honestly, I'll probably have this conversation with the next person I try to date. And if they don't say that, I want nothing to do with them because I don't want any woman near me at all, or my future kids, that even with like an ounce of their, like, I get being empathetic and like I'm doing, having a conversation about it, but I want their energy to be towards like, I would never do that. I think it's evil. I don't care what happened to me or anything. It's the same thing I said with alcohol. Like, some people act insane when they drink alcohol. They're already insane. Alcohol doesn't make you do that. I'm not an alcoholic. I've never been an alcoholic. Maybe in college I was an alcoholic and everyone was, and I just didn't know because everyone was drinking too much. But I've like, you make mistakes when you drink a lot. You act a little looser. But I'm not somebody completely different when I get drunk. I'm just like a more fun version of myself. Some people, they're like someone else when they drink. I'm sorry, but that's always been in you. It's not like alcohol made me do this. You were always kind of a little crazy, and the alcohol just removed the onion layers. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, but some people, they're too crazy to drink, and they use their crazy and work out, or they use their crazy and become a great musician, or they use their crazy and they find pickleball and they get really like competitive over it. Like, I'm a little crazy. I'm not that type of crazy, but I'm crazy competitive. I'm ambitious. I'm a little OCD. That's why my journalism was so good, because I don't like making mistakes. I want to be accurate when I'm reporting things. I'm not like, here's what I think and just believe me. Like, that's not why anyone even knows who I am. The reason people know who I am is because I did good reporting for most of my career, and like, so I like it's, some people look at how OCD I am about certain details and they're like, that's crazy. I don't want to be, I get it. It's not for everybody, but I try to hone my, character flaws to some, and to me, they could be a character strength. Some people can drink, some people can't. Some people like to smoke weed, some people don't. You just got to be honest with yourself and know yourself, but it doesn't turn you into someone like, I do think pharmaceuticals can definitely twist your mind. Absolutely. But you have to, I think there's probably like 100 million people in America on pharmaceuticals. Probably like half of the people you run into today will be on pharmaceuticals. They're not all out doing that. So, that's not an excuse. It's just not. Like, it's definitely a valid conversation to be had about big pharma, but you can't justify it. It's like, oh, well, he was just wasted. He didn't mean to crash his car. He was just wasted. It's like, well, he shouldn't have done that. No, a grown man shouldn't have done that. No, no one has autonomy now. It's but yeah, I would never want somebody like that in my life personally. And to be honest, like, I don't agree with Matt Walsh and everything, but I agree with the statement that he said. I mean, I'm gonna read it again. Like, I mean, it's a little a lot, but let me read what he wrote again, and like what triggered a lot of people apparently. He said, I would say that if you're a man and your wife attended this event, you need to immediately fight to remove your children from her custody. She is a threat to them and you, and I don't say that lightly. The problem is, I don't need to read the rest, but he's saying like men don't get a fair shake in court. I don't have a wife, so I don't need to see it through that lens. And that's a really tough decision to have if you're married to somebody. But I do agree with the sentiment of what he's saying. And I'm not asking every woman to agree. I'm just saying I would not ever want to be with somebody that thought that way. You know, if you already have kids with them and stuff, I mean, that's another conversation. But uh, someone said, I can't believe an app called TikTok is actually taken seriously. Well, the internet is whatever you make of it, and you could find anybody saying what you already believe or want to believe. So there's not that many people who want to learn. There's mostly just people who want to find people who say what they already think. So, and a lot of people it's like all you have to do is put together something, and sometimes like people will just believe it. So with if you go through my comments on Insta, there's 20 different theories, and like the people that believe all the theories, they're not acknowledging that like the rest of the comments doesn't even agree with them, which is fine. But it's like, he did it, he didn't do it, but it's okay. Like, there's like 20 different of those theories. They probably saw a TikTok or an Instagram reel of some guy tell them that, or they're like, watch the court case, watch the trial. I'm not going to sit and watch the entire thing, but luckily, due to AI, not that it's completely accurate all the time, but what it does do, if you use the right ones and know how to question it and make sure you don't let it lead you in the wrong direction, it can go through archives and court documents and everything that's being said, and you can get an answer. And it's like 90% of what people are saying never even happened. It's like, okay, you can think that, that's fine, but I don't know. And I have a theory about all that as well. Is like, if you don't lie to yourself, other people can't lie to you. So it's everything leads to yourself. If you're super, super honest with yourself, then you have a certain threshold of what you want from other journalists or other reporters. And if you're not honest with yourself, then you have the same threshold for others that you have with yourself. So it's like a personal thing. Is some people are getting tricked all the time because it's just like ego and pride, and they're like, and it's like, all right, dude, like if it's right, it's right. But some people's batting averages are not super high because they're like easy to trick, because they will take something and then run with it. Like even the Tyler Robinson thing, like I've been very as honest as I can be about it, where some people want to run in this direction, some people want to run in that direction. It's turned into Zionists fighting with Candace Owens, over foreign policy. And for some reason, all the Zionists say this one thing. Like, it's turned into a whole new thing. But for me personally, like, there's things that I believe, but if I can't prove it, then I just have to, be honest about what I can and can't prove and why I think the way I think, and then just leave it at that. But some people, it's like they want to run in one direction or the other, and that's just like most people just want to do that. I don't know. I get it, but it's just not what I like. I like someone that's super honest and someone that could admit what they do and don't know, and also be honest when they make mistakes. I'm not super into people that are like, I'm for sure it's not that, or it's definitely that, when I know for a fact that they don't know that. Like, why is it so hard for so many people to just admit that? Like, you can paint a picture, but if it's not complete, then, you know, just be honest about it and be like, this is as close as I'm going to get, or maybe we'll get more information later. Let me read. Someone said she was clearly insane. I hear you. Someone said, my issue with that you guys aren't looking at the details of this relevant case. Exactly. Do you want to learn about the medication she was prescribed, but don't want to look? She was on a benzo taper. I got benzos by not listening to the doctors, and the withdrawal did something horrific to you. like I said earlier, you're explaining your story through her story. You have a similar story, except you didn't strangle your kids and she did. So I get that benzos are bad. Jordan Peterson is still messed up off of the benzo addiction that he had. I think benzos are horrible. I think they're bad. I think doctors deserve accountability. I think that the whole medical industry deserves accountability. But I but you shouldn't do that to your children. Like, what if Jordan Peterson did that to his kids? Are we going to sit there and be like, I know why he did it because he took benzos? Like, he instead just is like off losing his mind somewhere. I'm not saying it's good, but it's just like, it's not, it's still like, why did, okay, now what? Like, they're bad. Doctors lie. It's horrific. You've been through it. A lot of people have been through it, but it doesn't justify strangling your kids. Um, Someone said, my question to you is, have you ever taken any type of mental health medication at all ever? I've taken medication and I did pills when I was younger, but it was just more being like a reckless kid. It wasn't like super prescribed or anything like that. I'm trying to think. I mean, I've experimented with drugs. I'll just say that. Did I do them over the course of 5 years because a doctor gave them to me and I was prescribed? Not that type of stuff. No. But I know drugs are bad. Not every drug is bad, but you're not telling me anything I've never heard before. Like, drugs are bad, but I didn't do anything like that when I did drugs. And I wouldn't recommend that anyone does them. And if I did do anything really bad on them, I need to take accountability for it. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I didn't strangle kids when I took drugs, and you shouldn't either. Like, why is that such a hard concept? Like, do you even know what drugs do? I know, yes, not every drug. It's not like I'm a drug addict that took 50,000 different drugs, but I guess I probably tried more than most people. I'm not really sure. I don't know. Maybe if you count pharmaceuticals, maybe I haven't because everybody's on like 50 pills. But yeah, I know what they do, but I don't get, like, where is this going? Like, I don't know. Like, I didn't go do something crazy because I've been on pills before. Let me see. Anomaly is, if a woman hasn't experienced imbalanced hormones, how can she say what she would or wouldn't do? This is not controllable. So Jordan didn't strangle his kids because he doesn't have hormones, and Lindsay Clancy strangled her kids because she's on hormones. Am I following this correctly? Is that the point you're trying to make? Men don't understand what it's like to strangle their kids because they don't have hormones. Can you just say that, like, I understand that women can't play basketball as good. They're not as good at chess. They don't Most world records are set by men in almost every category. Like, I get it. So can women not kill their kids or something? I don't get, what point are you trying to make? Jordan Peterson would want to do that to his kids if he had a hormone imbalance, or no? Like, let me know. I'm not trying to be like sarcastic. I'm just trying to figure it out. If that's the case, then maybe, like the same way women are online saying, like, men are bad, they don't understand us. Like, maybe the men that are saying to stay away from women are right. Then if a woman can help herself, then it's like, you know, I think it's good to find a wife, love her, have a godly family and all that stuff. But if you can't have a conversation with a woman that can't come to terms on this topic, then it's not the right one for me. Let's just say that. She was deeply drugged. Do you think that someone like, so anyone that gets drugs from a doctor is innocent? Like, what do you I don't get what point you're trying to make. I think that the entire pharmaceutical and doctor industry is corrupt. I think it's leading people into the wrong direction, and I would be totally fine with a massive court case that changed the entire system of pharmaceuticals in this country. In fact, I've been hoping that that would happen since I was 15 years old. But now what? Where do we draw the line of what we're doing? Someone said men don't need to be in charge of women's health, but they are and always have been. So you're a feminist who wants only women to be in charge of women's health. What about all the men who've invented all the medication that you're taking? I'm sure some women have done some things. I know Marie Curie did something, but probably like 95% of the medication that you're taking was made by men. Are you want only women to administer it to you or something? Like, what? Are you fine with medication that you want to take or only being administered to women? Or like, where are we going? This is fun though. Like I enjoy this back and forth, honestly. Someone said when you go for mental health and they stack pills and they have no solution, I agree. It's terrible. It's horrible. I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing. I hate the current medical system. I do. There's a lot of things that I despise in this country and in the world, but I just think people need to be able to spend more energy saying you shouldn't kill your kids than to make these type of excuses in a loop for 3 hours. But someone said women that do this to their kids should be in full control anomaly. I mean, it feels like that's what they're saying, but maybe we're just misunderstanding them. But it's like we don't want men. Men are in charge of healthcare. Should Kamala Harris be the president then or something? Are there too many men in your way? Should we replace RFK with Dr. Wolanski so she can tell you what drug? Like, how is that going to solve? I don't get it. Like now it's men's fault that women want to do this to their kids or something because they're doctors or in control of. Someone said anomaly. You're not a woman in the healthcare system. How can a man create a proper meds for women when they don't experience hormonal imbalance? So then find a holistic woman's doctor that will prescribe you what you want and understands what you're going through. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I'm not mad at it. Like if there's certain things I want to talk to guys. I don't like when I turn on ESPN, I don't want a bunch of lesbians talking about football. I want guys talking about it because they play it and it's more interesting. In fact, almost every element of feminism has been a complete failure on every level and almost everything's gotten worse. So there's a bunch of things that, I want men to do, but then there's some things that I'm like, yeah, I like women doing that. Like if you have a preference for like a woman doctor to tell you about birth, I that makes total sense to me. Then don't go to a man. I don't you have the choice to do that? And if you have the choice to do that, does she not have the choice? She had to go to a man doctor and strangle her kids. Like once again, where is this going? Yes, women can and could go to a woman doctor who completely understands what it's like to have thoughts to do that to your children. Because most men have no idea what it's like to be that evil and insane. But if a woman needs someone that's equally as evil and insane that knows what it's like to think these things, then go to a woman doctor and don't do that to your kids. So there's no excuse. Like I don't know. Like a man is not going to understand that. Most men, maybe like a psychopath will, but not any normal man doctor, unless they're all psychos. I don't know. A lot of them seem to be, considering all the meds they're prescribing to everybody. Someone said, I'm still trying to figure out how a man was able to receive pain medication from OBGYN decades ago, and I couldn't receive the same myself. Like, listen, I appreciate everybody. I don't even care if everybody disagrees with me on this topic. If you like me and watch my show, I'm very grateful, right? I think it's natural to disagree on stuff. I get as someone, like I'm a man, and when it comes to women, there's been great women in my life and there's been women that are annoying, but I don't hold this massive grudge towards women. Like I just don't. It feels like, and I'm not trying to be rude or judgmental, but it feels like a lot of women are like seeing themselves through Clancy and they're using it as a way to just vent their frustration with like men. It's like, I can't believe a man did this in 10 years. I understand that the healthcare is a thing, but like, why is so much inspiration from a woman strangling her kids leading you to say that a man got something you couldn't get like 5 years ago? Like, it feels like, when Black Americans were like, oh, well, George Floyd did all these things, and this reminds me of when I did this 7 years ago, even though I didn't do any of the things that he did. It's like, then why is I get it, but at the same time, it's just kind of a stretch, no? It feels like there's a lot of anger towards women. I love my mother. I love the women in my family. I've been righted by women. I've been wronged by women, but I don't hold the entire gender responsible for what bad women did to me. But it feels like a lot of women just hate men, the same way, it's like a liberal thing. Like I'm mad at what this guy did to me. So, remember that. It's like, should I talk about a bad date I had or something, or some crazy woman that I talked to 5 years ago that was annoying, or like, why would I don't know. Like, I don't, someone said, leave Black people out of this. well, it's too late because I already brought it up. But also, I'm not bringing black people into the Clancy thing. I'm just saying psychologically, a lot of black Americans, not all, saw themselves through the victimization of George Floyd and used that moment as a vehicle to vent their frustrations with America, police, and other races. Women are doing that with a woman who strangled her kids. I'm not saying they're identically similar, but the philosophy or the psychology of what's happening is identical. It's not the same exact thing. And I'm not saying black people are women that think they're Nancy Clancy. I'm just being honest that there's a similarity in the psychology of this being a huge catalyst for people's emotions and feelings in a certain direction. It's just true. Anomaly, you will never understand because you're trying to rationalize this with choice. It's not a choice. Okay, let me ask you this then. I'm just curious. Do you think if you're feeling this way and most men can understand it, do you think that do you think maybe men had it right from like thousands of years ago until like 40 years ago where women, although they were valued, respected and loved, they were not viewed as men. They weren't in politics, they weren't in mass media all the time. They were playing more of their role. There wasn't sports leagues and stuff. Like, do you think maybe, I'm just curious, do you think maybe like humanity had it right for 99% of human history? And like women needed to be controlled more because they have these intrusive thoughts. And maybe men knew this where they were like, these women are not designed to get into power. They need to be restrained or rather loved and cared for, but viewed as almost a different gender, like they're not supposed to be the president. They're not supposed to like be the CEO of a society. You said yes. I mean, okay, that I appreciate you saying that because that's I think I don't know that most women would admit that they think that. So thank you. I appreciate the honesty. Um, I hear you. I mean, I that's what my instinct tells me. Where it's hard to say because you don't want. First of all, you don't want all modern women to hate you, but also you don't want to be not thoughtful towards what people are dealing with. So for instance, like, there's a lot of great things that are good for women that came out of a lot of the feminist movement. I think there's probably more bad things personally, but if someone has a good experience, like, I've met women who say like, back in the day I wouldn't have been able to get away from this husband, but because of feminism, I've been able to like get away from him and it's been good for me. I'm not going to sit here and say that everyone has the same path and everything's good or bad for anyone. So I think people need to acknowledge the fact that women have benefited from some things in modern society. But if we're going to say that, then I think that, it's honorable for you to admit that you think it was better back in the day where, women needed to be restrained and, thought about in a different way. I think there seems to be something there to me because just based on the back and forth over this, not just this live stream, but I'm grateful for it because I'm not mad at anybody because certain like, there's a lot of like so many people think with immigration, it's like you can just bring people from everywhere and then it's the same. It's really not though. Like if you replace Japan with a totally different race, like Indians or something, it's not going to be Japan. Like in your head, it's like, oh, they can build the same society as Japan. They're not going to, like, there's differences and it doesn't make somebody bad, but it's like to not acknowledge the difference between gender and race to some extent, at least culturally, or even what they do with what they have is just dishonest. It's unpopular to say, but there's a way to respectfully talk about these things without being an asshole. Julius, thank you, brother. He said, women support Lindsay Clancy is exposing how mothers really feel about their children, and it's alarmingly disturbing. I'd be lying to you if I said that I did not come to that same conclusion, Julius, because that's like to them, they're like, listen to what I'm saying. And I'm a very thoughtful, good listener. I'm listening to everything they're saying. Some things I think they're saying is super valid, and some things I think they're saying is super thoughtful. A lot of it, though, to me, does seem like that's what they think about their kids. And it's kind of, I wouldn't say frightening because I'm not going to be scared of that, but it is alarming. It's alarming to me. And most men look at this and say, I had no idea you thought about your kids this way, or I had no idea you thought about things this way. And some of them are saying like, no, we don't, but we kind of do, but we don't, but we have those thoughts, but it's not our fault. And maybe that's true. I don't know. I don't know. Like nowadays, people are openly witches, and back in the day, they would be like, "You're a witch. You need to go. We're gonna throw you in the ocean or something." Maybe I'm just thinking Monty Python, and that never happened. But anyway, only real ones understand what I'm talking about. Monty Python, you get it. Um, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know. Like we don't live in the same world we used to. They'd be like, I think that woman's doing witchcraft, and it's like now there's a Facebook group for 5 million witches to be casting spells on Charlie Kirk and other people. It's like it's pretty weird. So there's something about the genders that people don't want to talk about. To the women, I'm popular with women. I would say I probably have more women followers on Instagram than I do like male followers, which is awesome. Not to get mad at my own gender, but it's always good to have the women around. You know what I'm saying? Ladies, I'm not trying to lose my entire audience of women. I'm not trying to, squander what I've worked so hard to build. But at the same time, I do think that there's differences. Like women, they're like, my cycle's aligned because of the moon. It's like your periods are aligning because of the moon. Like what's going on? Like women are fascinating creatures. Y'all, Serena said her eyes are literally black. Oh yeah. And the women are like, look at his eyes. His eyes look a little sus too to me, but her eyes are literally soulless. Like you could see in her eyes, like death. Like her eyes are as black and soulless as I've ever seen. So does he have kind of suspect eyes? Sure. Absolutely. I wouldn't trust them, but it's like the women that are like, look into his eyes, look at her eyes too. Like she strangled her kids, I don't know. Someone said ladies love Anomaly. Some do, some don't, mixed crowd, but appreciate it. I'd get her the hell away from children or my children. Fair. Someone said, I think it's really important for men to understand because they will marry and have kids and they need to be able to recognize it. Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, there are Bible stories about this. There's one about Adam and Eve and the apple and the woman being wicked. It's not to say that all women are, but kind of low key. The Bible says that they, did the first sin, but it doesn't mean men don't sin. I just think it, let your pastor tell you what it means. Who knows what he'll tell you. He'll be like, that story actually means the woman bit the apple because you didn't give enough money to Israel in Ukraine. It's like, whoa, let's slow down for a second. Someone said, yes, the moon does affect us. It's scientifically proven. I've worked in a mental facility in pure mayhem. See, like I'm not being mad at women. I'm just like there is something going on, and like I don't, only women know. I agree. Only women know what is going on in their mind. But all women are different, and all men are different. But there are similarities between men and similarities between women. Like a lot of men have like massive character flaws that are similar, but it doesn't mean every guy sucks. And with women, it's like I think this moment is spurring women being like crying for help, kind of being like, no, this, like, you have no idea what we're thinking. I'm like, I agree. Even watching that video back, I thought it would be worse because, after I made it, I definitely learned more from listening to people. When I watched it back, I was like, I thought that was way worse than it was. I'm actually going to play it again real quick, and I have to use the restroom. But yeah, I don't know. Like reading the comments, they're like, you don't know. I was like, I don't know. I thought I did a way crappier job than I really did, but I guess it's just the topic itself is bringing everyone out to really, state what they're thinking. But let me play it. I'm gonna pee and try to get back before it ends. If I don't, I'll be back.
Show a high for Lindsay. It's a mental health. If you'll ever have this many women in one place at one time who may understand all of us on a level that others don't. So
seems pretty insane to me, but I can't say I'm surprised in this crazy world that we live in. And I've almost been ignoring this story because I feel like subconsciously I don't even want to know what these chicks are saying or thinking. I saw online somebody mentioned they don't think that there would be this big of a crowd or these women would be there to support Lindsay Clancy if she had killed her dogs, which we'll never know. Of course, it's speculation, but I do think that that's probably true. What does that say about how people value humanity and human life? My first thought was how many pharmaceutical pills was she on, and I wasn't shocked to find out that she was prescribed about 13 different psychiatric medications. 13 over 4 months. She was not taking all 13 at the time, but maybe about 3 or 4. And I think there needs to be a conversation around that. Obviously, most people by now know that some of these medications are doing some pretty weird things mentally to people. I get everyone's trying to cope with how crazy life is, but could they be altering people's mind in a way that it wouldn't normally twist? And what do you think about all of the women supporting Clancy? I saw this comment from Matt Walsh. He said, I would say that if you're a man and your wife attended this event, you need to immediately fight to remove your children from her custody. She is a threat to them and you, and I don't say that lightly. The problem is that every court in this country will side with her, not you, because women actually have the exact sort of unfair institutional advantage that feminists say men possess. What do you think about that? I mean, yeah, I would not want to see my wife or girlfriend attending this event. To me, probably be an instant breakup. I get having sympathy and empathy, but I don't think women were designed to sit on online Reddit groups justifying each other's psychotic behavior and digging a hole deeper further into insanity. And if you want to say that about men as well, I agree. I guess there's an internet group for everything, including women who justify offing their children. Pretty insane stuff. Probably not going to cover it that much more, so let me know what you guys think. I'm just gonna read some stuff on Instagram, and women in the comments, let me know if you agree or disagree with me. Men, silence, men. We're talking to the ladies here. Yeah, come on, man. No, I'm just kidding. But here's a message I just got. This is amazing. Someone shot me a message on Insta, said, maybe it's just me, but the behavior that women are exhibiting in the comment section of our post is the type of behavior that will lead us back to the society where we declare lobotomies to women who can't control their hormones. I've had depression. I've had dark ideation thoughts, but never towards my children. And I'm pregnant with our third. Women need to check themselves if we wish to remain well in society. There's a based woman who takes accountability. That's awesome. It's like, yeah, I've been depressed. I've had bad thoughts, but not like that. You know, like that's all. Is that hard to do? My gosh. Want me to read? I'll read the top comments. Let's see. Let me see. Let's just read the top ones. Unless you've walked this path, it's difficult to understand or have empathy. As a mother of 3 children, I understand this. I do feel immense sadness over this situation, and I'm not a feminist. It's terrifying to feel out of control, scared, and utterly sleep deprived. At the same time, the societal pressure of being the best mother, wife, and employee, the women supporting her have walked her path. I don't agree with the pharmaceutical route, but as a nurse, she had faith in the medical system. Please pray about this. Only God can judge. I agree with you regarding mostly everything, but not this. She needed help. She sought help and was failed. We don't know if she offed her children. This is the first comment. The entire thing is her basically justifying why, if she did it, that you don't understand why she did it and you don't get it. You know, you're being, I disagree with you. I'm not a feminist, but you don't know what it's like to be sleep deprived. That's not true. You don't know what it's like to, you know, like have societal pressure to be the best mother, wife, and employee. But, you know, I don't agree with the pharmaceutical route, but as a nurse, I get why people trust it. But we don't even know if she did it. Then why did you spend 2 paragraphs justifying why it would be okay if she did it? Guys, there's not one comment like this. It's most women. Like, I knew women were crazy, but reading these comments is insane. Like, here's 2 paragraphs of why you don't understand why she did it. You don't know what it's like to feel that way. I know what it's like to feel that way. I know what it's like to be a mother, that everything has to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect. Blah, blah, blah. But we don't even know if she did it. Then why did you spend so much time? Like, dude, they're all like, women are crazy. It's like, like, it's like me just doing paragraphs of like, Anthony Fauci is a great guy. I mean, you don't know what it's like to be a doctor. You don't know what it's like to be under the scrutiny of like having to do all these things, and you don't really understand. But I mean, it could not have even been that. I mean, it could have been someone else. And it's like, real? Are you like, do these? I feel like they've talked amongst themselves so often that they don't realize how insane they look. Where they're like, no, all my girlfriends agree with me. It's like, that's the problem. Here's another one. I'm a conservative Christian and a pediatric nurse. I support Lindsay. She supports Lindsay. She's a supporter. A Christian conservative nurse supporting Lindsay. This is a top comment, by the way, guys. This is not like, oh, nobody agrees with this. These are the most agreed with comments on my thing. I'm getting absolutely ratioed, and most people disagree with me. I'm a conservative Christian and a pediatric nurse. I support Lindsay. It's very clear she was incredibly mentally ill, and her psychiatrist testified yesterday in court that she did have psychosis. Her mother-in-law testified that she was begging for help, and she was truly a wonderful mother. She tried calling a suicide hotline multiple times and wasn't admitting because she didn't have an exact plan. Her healthcare providers just kept throwing drugs at her. Nobody was taking this woman seriously until the unthinkable happened. Many women suffer from postpartum depression, and I believe this trial could be a turning point in our healthcare system if we allow it. The commentary between men and women in regard to the entire trial has caused yet another cultural divide. We need to do better as a society. So she's a conservative Christian pediatric nurse who supports Lindsay and thinks she's a great mother, even though she strangled her children to death. But this is just a societal divide being caused. No, this is, in my opinion, this is one of the greatest, like, not great events, meaning it's a good event, but like greatest showcases of what women truly are thinking. Not all, but many. It's like when you talk to men, they don't say, I hate other men. I'm not friends with any men. No guy says that. But you talk to every woman, they say, I hate women. I don't have women friends. Why? Why do you hate most women? Women know what I'm talking about. But anyway, it's like this has been the greatest showcase of what most women are truly thinking, and it's utterly insane and diabolical and evil. Not every woman is evil, but I support Lindsay, and she was a great mother. She strangled her kids to death. Do you notice she can't even say in there like she was a good mother up until the point that she strangled her kid? Like it's just like she's like a fan. She's a fan of this lady who slowly executed her children. A conservative Christian, not the bottom comment, the top comment. Most women on my page are either very healthy or conservative, and they all agree with it, except for like 10 to 20%. I mean, dude, it's very alarming. Someone said, as a woman, I do not support any justification for murder, period. Lock her up. Why do you think most women support this? Do you think it's the same reason that women say, like, I don't like other women because like cool women know that most women suck, sort of thing? I mean, even among like men, it's not like every guy's cool. Like, most men keep their friend group small because even most guys suck. But you always see like women saying, like, I don't have any girlfriends. They all suck. You're like, I get it. You like the bros. Let's see. Someone said, I don't have any women friend because BITCHs are crazy and they'll never admit that. Yeah. Someone said either this story is fake but here's the thing. Regardless of whether this story is fake or not, this is what women are thinking. So it doesn't, like, if the story is fake, I don't think it is, but let's just say the story is fake. It's helping humanity understand what most women are actually thinking. So it's not like a bad psyop if it was a psyop. I don't think it is, but if it was, it's a good one. It's one that's letting people have a conversation that most people would never want to admit. They wouldn't want to admit this because it's insane. It's not healthy. It's not good. It's really bad. If you want to say that you've struggled, I get that. But to say that she's a good mother after she just slowly strangled her kids, Aaron Hernandez was a great football player, and then he killed his wife or his girlfriend. Does that mean he was a great husband? Not really. No. Like that's the worst girlfriend or like that's the worst boyfriend or husband that you could possibly be. Like doing that. That's the worst. That's like literally like she's literally, not only is she not a good mother, she's literally probably the worst mother of the year, the number one worst mother in modern history, if the story's true. But women think she's a good mother. Conservative women, not liberal women. Someone said, I just got here, thought maybe you talk about Alex Jones and Tim Pool beef. I haven't seen it, but if I would be interested to see Alex Jones freaking out about Tim Pool, because I don't like Tim Pool. He's obnoxious and he's a phony. So I would find it funny. Someone asked earlier about the Candace and Andrew Wilson debate. I only saw a few clips of it. I saw Andrew like shaking his leg the whole time like this, and it was hard for me to watch. When someone's that nervous, it makes me uncomfortable. Like if I'm sitting talking to somebody and having like a coffee and their legs going like this, I'm starting to feel weird. I'm like, "Are you okay, dude? Like, what's wrong?" So the fact he was like wagging his leg the whole time was annoying. I saw a clip of Candace saying like she's confident because she thinks she thinks, and when like think she could be confident about the thing she thinks and isn't 100%. Like I've seen the clips that both sides were posting, and I didn't feel like watching the debate. I already know what I'm going to go away thinking. I'm not a fan of Andrew. Um I think Candace is doing her investigation where she's like, whatever I think is it, I'm the lead investigator and people like it. So I don't know what it is to me. Like I already know what I think about the situation. I know how much there is to prove. In some ways, Candace has revealed things like text messages that are really helpful towards understanding the full situation. So I can't knock her. But I'm personally not interested in going on like a 2-year scavenger hunt, like with what people are thinking and doing. So I just didn't even feel like watching the debate. Like, I don't know. Like, what am I going to get out of it? I feel like Andrew's not really like a good person to question her, but at the same time, if he could get the debate, then like he is there. So he's the only one that's doing it. So both sides got their clips. I think both sides think they won. I think Candace has been super helpful in the sense of she's gotten like the fact that she got the text message out that Charlie said that he was going to leave the pro-Israel cause like 48 hours before he died. That never would have came out if Candace didn't drop that. So like that is what it is. Like people can hate on everything she's done, but that is massively helpful. With that being said, I have a different kind of process of like how I would do it. And I just, I'm not, it's not like something that I watch all the time or really care about. So I'm not going to waste like 3 hours because I don't think I'm going to really get anything out of it. But that's just me. Like, I know it was entertaining for some people, and I know people on both sides are like, they crushed, like there's a huge discrepancy of like people that don't like Candace thinking that she lost and people that like her thinking she blew him out of the water. I'm sure if I watched it, I would find a little bit of both in there where I'd be like, "Ooh, that wasn't great," or "That was great." Like I don't I would try to be as honest without bias as possible, but I can't like him shaking his leg too much. I just can't do it. Like it would be like having a meeting with somebody and they're just shaking the whole time. Like you know, I know maybe that seems petty to some people, but it's similar to like Destiny. The way Destiny talks and his jaw moves, like he looks like a demonic puppet. It like spiritually creeps me out. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't watch it for too long because it's like there's so many options in this world. I don't want to hear some little angry goblin with like an unhinged jaw, like moving around like he's Chucky in a horror movie, talking about socialism, yelling at like conservatives. Andrew's not that bad to me, but I just I didn't like him shaking like nervously. I feel like was just aesthetically a bad look for me to want to like watch someone shake. You know what I'm saying? It's like some people say that about RFK too. They're like, I like his message, but it's hard to listen to his voice. Valid. I like listening to RFK sometime, but I think that his persona and his like thoughtfulness outweighs the fact that it's hard to listen to him. But I would get if some people like I know some people that are like it's hard for me to listen to him for 2 hours. Fair, but someone said I remember Andrew because he retweeted you and liked what you tweeted. I have nothing like against the guy. I don't, I guess like I don't really know. I don't know that much about him, and like I said, I mean, I just think that the leg shaking was a little like just off-putting. But that's like a small detail that is just like a personal preference. I'm sure if I watched the interview, I would have, I probably like based on the clips that I seen, I think there were a lot of moments where Candace kind of made him look dumb. And then I think there were points where he made her look a little silly, or at least to people that like, if you like Candace, you don't care what she says or does. But to some people, I don't know. It's hard for me to find people that are either not obsessed or they hate. Like, it's like either they watch her every day or they hate everything she does. Like, I don't know. I've never met too many people that are just like, yeah, I'm indifferent about it. To me, like I said, I think outside of all the theatrics of it, she got actual things out to the public, like the text messages that never would have been public. So that's a concrete thing. Even if she does all this other stuff that doesn't really add up or it does add up, to me, like the stuff that she did get out were invaluable. So I can't hate on it. But yeah, I guess like It's similar. I'm not saying she is Q because she's not at all, but like it's similar to like certain people liked Q because they liked going on like a crumble trail for like 5 years, and they're like, we're getting there, and that's like they like. That's not what I personally like. So with Candace, it's like it's a little different, but I think it's like this, she's like the lead investigator. Her team is like they're gonna do it since they don't think that anyone else is doing it. And they're like, whatever, we're doing an open source investigation. So yeah, we might get a few things wrong here, but we're on our path. It's very like we're on our way, we're getting close, sort of thing. Where I'm more like, okay, we'll see. Like every couple weeks or every couple months, like something does come out that's of substance, that adds to the conversation. But yeah, I don't know. Like I just don't want to. I don't want to listen to like a full 3 hour debate between her and Andrew, or 2 hours hosted by PBD. He'll be like, listen, okay, I'm a numbers guy. Okay. Let's have a, it's like, dude, I'd rather watch a sports content or something like PBD host. Okay. Listen. Okay. Come on. Hey, let's have a fair debate. Okay. Okay. Like, all right, dude. I get it. Someone said I trust her more than the government. I don't blame you. I mean, the government is not trustworthy at all. Like, what I've noticed about that too is the people like you have to be honest about the situation, because I know some people are obsessed with her and some people hate her. But what I've noticed is I think the people that don't like what she's doing, they don't understand like her opposition and how stupid they are. So it's like they're kind of framing it as like Candace is really bad and she's doing all these things that are not good. And everyone else is just trying to do this. And it's like, dude, all the people that dislike Candace the most publicly are all some of the biggest frauds in politics. So there's a reason people like what Candace is doing, because she's like, it's like Trump versus Biden. She's playing whack-a-mole with these dummies. Like, I had no opinion about Andrew Colvett, even when nobody liked him on Candace's side, right? I always try to, like, I'm not trying to be influenced by this or that. I had no issue with Andrew Colvett until I started following him and listening to what he said. And he's such a hypocrite. He's such a fraud. He's such a liar. He's so two-faced that it wasn't necessarily Candace saying stuff about him that made me not like him. It was him talking that made me not like him. Same with that Blake Neff guy. So it's like, the people that don't like Candace the most, they're like, I don't get it. I get it. To me, not understanding why Candace is popular and well-loved is like not understanding why Trump beat Hillary Clinton. It's the same thought process of like, you don't have to like Trump, but if you're like, oh, all his supporters are racist and sexist, you're not understanding what's going on. Like, you're missing what he's doing right that they're doing wrong. It doesn't mean that Trump did everything right. We could see that now. Trump did not pan out at all. But I find that the people that are like really pissed at Candace, they don't get it. Like it's like, dude, the people that are opposing her, and I don't know much about Andrew and I didn't listen to the debate, but like all the other people that I see, like Blake Neff and Andrew Colvett sitting on the Charlie Kirk show talking about what they think Charlie Kirk would have done for 2 years is so weird. Andrew saying she's a blank hater and, trying to pin it as hate speech, and she's just so hateful. Charlie was being called an anti-Semite when he died. Like, so they were saying that about Charlie, and now his PR guy saying that about Candace. It's like, it's so dishonest. So that's all I could really say, is like, I don't understand why the people that hate her so much don't understand why she's doing so well. That doesn't make sense to me at all. Like, they're acting like her opposition is like the rightful one. And I don't see it that way. I think everyone opposing her are just making these crazy unforced errors that are kind of like exposing them. And mysteriously, everyone that doesn't like Candace just so happens to be a Israel first Zionist that just won't talk about the Israel lobby, which literally controls our government, Congress, Trump, and Biden. And it's literally like the reason GOP can't do anything. Like, the GOP works for Israel, so the Israel always gets what it wants. But when it comes to what we want, we don't ever get what we want because they don't work for us. Like, it's that simple. If you're a conservative talking about politics and you won't mention the Israel lobby, you might as well be Sean Hannity. You might as well be Lindsey Graham. You might as well be whoever. And everyone who's publicly going the hardest against Candace are Zionist plans. So that's why people are like running into Candace's lap, because it's like I said, I'm not saying this just to play the fence. I know Candace personally, so it's like I have a, I'm not best friends with her, and I really haven't talked to her in a long time, but I've known her for years, and helped like discover her sort of. I'm not like, oh, I'm so great, but we have a history to some extent. So I have like a natural bias where I'm like, I want her to do well, and I want her to have a good life, whatever. Um, but outside of that, like I'm not hating on what she's doing, because I don't, but I'm not like obsessed with it. Like everyone, like to me, it just is what it is, and I'm not that intrigued to listen every day. But you know, I guess I don't get the people that don't understand why people do want to listen to that. Like if you ask me, like, okay, you have to choose. It's like you have to choose Trump or Kamala. It's like, man, that's such a I'll choose Trump. But like Candace, I think is way more interesting than Trump. Like Trump sucks now. But with it's like, oh, you have to choose a side. Candace or all the Zionist, neocon, warhawk liars and Andrew Kovet and Blake Neff. Who are you choosing? I would choose Candace. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a better choice. I don't know. Like, how do people not? You're gonna have to do better than Andrew Kovet and like freaking, like Mark Levin to make me intrigued by what the other side's saying. If there were like legit journalists that were criticizing Candace and making sense, then it would be like, oh, that's a good video. But all of her biggest haters are all coincidentally people who either work for the Israel lobby or won't talk about the Israel lobby. Why is that? Why can you not find one person that really, I guess like Nick Fuentes doesn't like Candace or something, and he like, besides that, it's like you're not really seeing very much of that. I know. And then like Nick's beefing with Dan and everything. So like everyone has these like personal beefs. I don't have time. I'm not like mad at someone personally. I don't feel inspired to like yell at somebody on Twitter every day, but I do have my opinions. And my opinion is I didn't watch the debate. I don't think I would enjoy it. I think it would annoy me just listening to the back and forth hosted by VVD, and Andrew shaking and Candid. Like it's like, all right, it's not going to sway my opinion. I don't think. Like I already know a lot of stuff, and it's not like, I guess that debate is almost either for like, it's either for people that want to see Candace question because they don't like her, or people that are like really like Candace that want to see how she handles opposition. I already know. I've already listened to enough where I know what I already think. Like I'm not like gonna be super swayed by anything that Candace or uh, Andrew says. I don't think personally, because I'm not like knee deep in any situation. But I personally do not believe the official narrative. I think there's a lot of holes in it, but I also think I think they have enough evidence where he will be guilty, but we'll see. I think Tyler, I wouldn't be shocked if he got off, but I'd be less shocked if he was guilty, because I think, with the evidence that they have, like the DNA stuff, I think usually that's enough for a court to say you're guilty. I just don't personally believe everything they said. Like, oh, he was going to get away, but then he sent a text message to his gay lover. It's like, why would you do that? Like, maybe, but at bare minimum, am I allowed to say that I'm not convinced that it was like a total solo job or what, but at the same time, what I think is not, I'm not a judge. I'm not on the jury. My thoughts don't equate to enough evidence to disprove otherwise. So it is what it is. It's just another stream and another conversation to be had. But my personal thought is I don't believe the official narrative at all. So I'm not shocked that people follow the leading voice of questioning the official narrative. And I don't know. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. I'm definitely interested when the actual court case starts and what his defense is saying, etc. And I think that the Tyler Robinson did it side is like, I don't know. Like they'll leave the court case and be like, there's HD footage of this, and then there's like really not. Like, why would you do that? I don't everything is just so sketchy, and the way everybody's acting is so insane that I'm just taking it day by day. But yeah, I don't know. Someone said, I've been following it. I think she genuinely cares about the case. I think a lot of people think that. That's why she's got the biggest show ever, and everyone hates her doesn't have a big show, you know? Like that there's something to it. It doesn't necessarily mean that Call Her Daddy's a popular podcast. It doesn't mean they're spitting truth, but with Candace, I think the correct analysis is she's running laps around other people, you know? And you can't beat somebody by being faker and dumber than them. So to anyone that wants to like beat Candace, I think you have to provide something. Like it's gonna take more than somebody who's like nervously shaking their leg in a debate. Like that's not gonna beat Candace, you know? Like I don't know. You might make a few points or get a few clips and make her look a little silly on certain topics or whatever, but I don't think it's gonna beat the movement that she's doing. So I don't know. I guess I don't really like anyone that much that is like doesn't talk about the Israel lobby. I think the Israel lobby controls our government. I think they control Trump. I think they control Congress. I think the GOP works for Israel. So to me, that's like the number one topic in government. And if you can't talk about that, then I just it's not interesting to me. I'm not going to say I won't trust you at all. Like there's other ways to do good work. Like I don't need a basketball player to talk about the Israel lobby. I don't really care. You know, they're good at basketball. They're good about. So I'm not saying it's the only thing you can do in this life to help. But if you're doing political commentary and you're constantly complaining about liberals and stuff, and you never talk about the Israel lobby, me personally, I don't find it helpful or interesting at all. Um, but then among people that question the Israel lobby, you have all of these beefs. You have Jake Shields and Dan Bilzerian don't like Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes doesn't like Candace. Like they don't like, Nick doesn't like Tucker. You know, that's like for them to decide why they feel that way or what's going on. But for like, there's definitely like no unity there. It's just like constant fighting over stuff. And I don't know. To me, I don't get it I don't get what people are doing. And I'm sure everyone has a reason. And clearly somebody started it, you know, like someone had to start it in order for it to like be a beef to some extent. But it doesn't include me. I don't get involved in other people's drama. And even with other people, if I know you as a person and I like you and there's things we disagree with, even women watching this stream, it's okay. You know, I don't think anyone agrees on everything all the time. So, you know, I'm not going to police who people like and dislike or who people watch and listen to. That's on you. I'm just saying what I think, you know? I'm not trying to control the life of any of my friends or what they say and do. I feel like that's really childish. Someone said you can, let me see. Someone said you can make money and be a journalist at the same time. Two things can be true. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think making money or not making money is exclusive to lying, but I think certain people they're getting paid to lie. You know, like politicians, if you look at all the politicians who take money from big pharma, they're all voting in favor of big pharma when most people that aren't getting paid don't think it's the right thing to do. It's not a coincidence, you know? So as a listener, you have to figure out what you think people are doing it for. Some people, you know, I think are doing it for money. Other people aren't. Some people, I think they're doing it out of the passion. And some people are already rich and, you know, they can make a lot of money. But like, say with Candace, like me personally, do I think she's doing what she's doing right now for money? I personally don't. If you think she doesn't have the right motives or whatever, you could think that, but I'm just saying specifically money. I think she's already rich. Her husband's already rich. Is it like bad business to talk about this? Probably not. It probably is making a lot of money, but I don't think she's someone that's hurting for money and ever really was in the last like 5 or 10 years. I think she's probably absolutely loaded and probably was even when she left Daily Wire. So even if you disagree with her, I don't think she's doing it for money. Could it be something else? Or I like that's, you know, why is she doing it? Watch her and decide based on her energy and what she says on your own. But just like Ben Shapiro, I don't think Ben Shapiro's doing it for money. So many people who don't like Ben Shapiro be like, oh, Ben's just getting paid. Ben Shapiro is not doing this for money. He's Jewish ethnically and religiously. It means a lot to Ben Shapiro. His religion means a lot to him. His ethnicity means a lot to him. The country that he likes, Israel, means a lot to him. I'm sure America means something to him too. I'm just not convinced that it's as much as Israel. But with that being said, like people will be like, Ben's getting paid by APAC. Ben doesn't need to get paid. It's deeper than that to Ben. It doesn't mean I like Ben Shapiro. It doesn't mean I agree with Ben Shapiro. I don't really either of them. I don't like or agree with him. But it's not a money thing for Ben. He doesn't need money, and he'd probably do it for free. It's ideological. The question is like, what are his ideas? Are they compatible with America first? So I feel like that's my analysis on it. And not to brag, but I think it's a good one. I think that's what gets me excited to do my job, is not a bunch of people doing their job properly. It's them not doing it properly and me being like, I think I could do that better. Someone said she's made a lot of money off of Charlie's death. I mean, she's definitely making a fortune with covering it, but I think if she didn't cover this, she would be making a fortune doing something else. Would it be as much? Debatably, no, but I think she has motives, but I just don't think it's money, I don't know though. I mean, if you want to think that, you can. I personally don't think she's doing it for money. I think she's doing it for other reasons. Even like Turning Point, I don't know. Like is Turning Point doing certain things for money? I think everything they do makes money, and their Turning Point's making a lot of money off Charlie Kirk's death. But I don't think that's what, like, they're just capitalizing off of it, and it's his former company. So, I don't think what they're doing is like, oh, it's just the money. I don't know what Blake Neff and Andrew Colvett are doing. I don't think that's for money, but I do think that something weird's going on. Like, it's either for their ego or their fame, or like, it's like, what are you still sitting in Charlie's seat for? Like, make your own show. So I don't know whether you like someone or agree with them or trust them or not. I think some people do things for money, but other people don't. Like, and but you're entitled to believe what you want about who you want. I don't think you're wrong to speculate. I think that's what everyone does. They go with their intuition and just, can watch somebody and listen and decide, oh, I think that person's doing it for this or that. But yeah, like, say Tucker Carlson, you think he's doing what he's doing for money? I think he's already really rich. Like, I don't think Tucker's doing, oh, he really needs money. The dude is loaded. He was born rich, and he's been rich, and he's made so much money. Like, you could like or hate Tucker Carlson, but I think it's crazy that people are like, oh, he's getting paid by the dude. He's been rich since he was born, and he probably has hundreds of millions of dollars now already. Like, he can make money doing 50 different things. He doesn't need to say what he's saying now to make money. That to me, it doesn't really make sense, but everyone's entitled to disagree. I don't really care. Someone said she also has many lawsuits. I mean, she definitely knows how to fight court cases. I don't, like, she's an expert at that, between Macron and all that stuff. I'm sure she's dealt with a lot of those things. But if you get to that level, you're going to have a lawyer, and you need a lawyer because you're constantly like winning battles. So there's a price of everything. If you're going to be that famous and that wealthy off of media, then like lawsuits start raining in, I mean, obviously, if you say the leader of France's wife has a PP, you might get that might bring a lawsuit or two, but like, I don't think she really cares. It doesn't seem like she's bothered by it. I think she knows how to deal with that. I don't know. I can't speak on that because I'm not at that level where like that's happening all the time. I don't know. Someone said Crowder has his attorney sit in as a show guest. Yeah, I'm sure Crowder's similar, where he knows exactly. He's probably great friends with his lawyer because he's probably dealt with lawsuits a lot. I don't know. I don't like Crowder, but I don't think there's anything specifically wrong with that. But I don't watch his show. I don't know. Let's see. Someone said Ben Shapiro said his loyalty to the U.S. is reliant on support of Israel. Yeah, I've covered that. I've heard he said that he got into the media to talk about Israel and defend Israel. He said that, America, like Israel's basically a backstop. So his support of America relies on the fact that he can go to Israel. He said these things 5 times, but Ben will still call you an anti-Semite if you say he likes Israel more than America. So it's like same story on loop. Someone said, I'm here for an anomaly. Laugh out loud. It's the best. Love his analysis. Thank you, Maria. In my head, what I'm saying is hilarious, but I don't know if anybody's laughing at it. In my head, I'm crushing this comedy routine, but how could I know? The audience is digital. Like, you're real, but I don't, I'm not at like the Laugh Factory being like, yuck, yuck, and everyone's laughing at me. But in my head, it's kind of funny. Trying to be entertaining. Thank you, Maria. I appreciate you. Someone said black versus white, red versus blue, Christian versus Muslim. They want us focused horizontally, so we never look up at who's orchestrating all this mess. That is hate speech in 15 different countries. How dare you? I'm not reading that comment, but I see it. If you know, you know. We can get back to the other thing too. I'll probably stay for like 20, 30 more minutes. And if I stay for longer, then that's going to look very stupid. Like every time I say I'm going to leave and I don't, but I don't know. I'm chilling. I'm not in a rush today. And I will probably be back to talk about certain issues, like with actual politics and stuff. I don't know. I mean, we could talk about it now too. I don't. It would probably be like smarter to do another video and talk about it, but I'm not one to do the smartest thing all the time when it comes to the business of not doing 3-hour live streams. But whatever. Someone said you do it for the truth, and if you make money along the way, it just gives you more to finance and uncover the truth. For sure. I mean, that's how it's worked for me, but. There's other paths that other people have taken where they've been able to make a lot of money, doing certain things. So as far as other people, I can't speak on what decisions they made when they did, but I could tell you about my life and why I did it, because that's the only thing I really know for sure. Shall I go back? Let's read some more comments. Let's see if we get any more top comments about it. I'm like afraid to even see how many comments there are. Let's see. 1,227. Great. Let's see. All right. Someone said Patrick is the one who did it. If you followed along, you would know that. So someone thinks that the husband did it, yet ignoring all the women in the comments that are justifying her doing it. That's interesting. Aren't we innocent until proven guilty in the court of law? Do you notice what like this woman thinks she's like Lindsay Clancy? We're innocent. It's like, yeah, everyone's innocent until proven guilty, but where did is there anywhere I said that she doesn't deserve a trial? Like the amount of coping just to defend her is wild. Like it's not like I'm sitting here saying she's guilty, throw her in jail right now. She definitely did it. I'm not saying to not look at the husband. I'm not saying to not look at all the evidence. Like, it's like they're inventing this reality. Usually this account is pretty fair, but it definitely missed the mark on even slightly researching this case. Husband's phone records are sealed, camera malfunctions, his testimony is consistent, the list goes on. Healthcare workers are supporting her for a reason. So this person thinks that the husband did it, which is totally fine. But once again, acting like there's no one in the comments, like literally more than half of the comments are probably women justifying it or at least like defending it to some extent. And then there's people that are like, you don't even know. She didn't even do it at all. It's not what these people think. And I'm telling you, that's what I'm not going to say more interested in, but the like people defending it is more fascinating to me than like you thinking it was someone else. That's fine if everyone in the comments was like, if it was like the Charlie Kirk situation where they were like, it wasn't Tyler, it was this, and everyone was on a similar page, even though it gets a little sloppy. It's not like that. It's like more than half of the comments are defending that. But then they're like, no one's doing that. We all just think it's the husband. That's not even true. Let's see. I made a video similar to this and was gaslit and insulted by women defending the child murder. I see it happening here as well. Wild world. That guy's like, what the hell? This is a stand against the medical system. How do you not understand that? It's not about the murders. It's about the failure of the doctors. So once again, now this person thinks she did it, but the doctors failed her. This is where you've lost me. To everyone saying you don't have the facts, how about telling instead of showing us some of the facts? Valid. That guy's just being a logical man, clearly ignoring it. Why haven't you mentioned it at all? I was like, let's see. Have you ever experienced postpartum depression or psychosis for that matter? You have a lot of women that support you, but after this, you lost them. Maybe do your research first. So now, instead of saying that the man did it, this woman's saying, you've never experienced postpartum depression or psychosis. Is there anywhere that I said that? Did I ever say that people don't get depressed or women don't get depressed when they have kids? She thinks I've lost all women because I'm just saying someone who strangles their kids is bad. You've lost all women saying that. If that's the case, everyone I lose, that's awesome because these are, once again, women I would never date or marry. I would never marry or date anybody that said that to me. You know, you could be a 10 out of 10, everything else is perfect, but if you're more interested in defending child strangulation than you are calling it out, it doesn't appeal to me. I'm sure there's a guy out there that will want that, but it's like, you know, uh, yeah, I don't know. It's fascinating because most of them are women justifying or defending it to some extent. And then there's other people that are like, you don't know what you're talking about. It's not about her doing it. But it is, though, to a lot of these people. It's like saying since you had something happen to your heart, you can't be a cardiologist. I mean, someone said, sadly, in our country, women support abortion. Abortion, blanking children in and out of the womb is a massive problem. I do think spiritually that has kind of like led to this moment, not completely, but thank you, Karen. I appreciate it. Yeah, I know all the sane women that are normal and didn't strangle their kids will probably understand what I'm saying. But thank you, Painslinger. With abortion, like once again, I'm not sitting judging what people have done and tough decisions or whatever, but if you look at the right wing will say either some of them support abortion, but most people on the right will be like, you know what? I think there should at least be a limit. Like some people say no birth control. But like the moderate position on the right is the heartbeat bill. It's like, okay, once a baby has a heartbeat, don't kill the baby. If you go to the left, they have no line because when you don't draw a line as a man or a woman, then there is no line and you literally live in hell. So if you go to the left, it's like, can we do a heartbeat? No, that's too conservative. What about 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks? And then they'll have some crazy psychotic demonic woman passing a bill that says that you could basically abort a baby up until birth, and giving the flexibility for a doctor to say yes. It's the same as saying, oh, a doctor can tell you to prescribe weed. Doctors can do that now. So then weed is going to be legal. And they'll be like, well, no, weed is not legal. A doctor can just prescribe it to you. But if you allow some doctors to prescribe weed, they're going to do it. Like, even if you might not need it necessarily. You get what I'm saying? It's the same with abortion. Democrats pass these laws that say that you can do it up until birth, but then they cope and say, well, we're not saying that they have to say that, but if a doctor makes that decision, then it'll happen. There's going to be a bunch of liberal doctors that do make that decision, and they'll let you abort a baby up to birth. So now on the right, it's the heartbeat. On the left, it's up until birth. When the line gets taken away, it goes further and further towards like killing your kids. And then it's like eventually it moves towards afterbirth, or you don't really understand or whatever. And this seems to be crossing political lines, but I do think it's like if you bring in first wave feminism, second wave feminism, third wave feminism, or like first wave drugs, second wave drugs, third wave drugs, people that are taking a stand aren't really taking a stand because they don't realize how far the slippery slope has gone. And I think that's the case with this. Like, I do think men and women have been desensitized towards abortion in both parties, to the point where like this conversation would be absolutely insane to have 50 years ago. But now even conservative women are agreeing with like far leftists because this is uniting them in their ideas of, you don't understand what it's like to be me. I've had these thoughts too. Don't talk about a woman strangling her kids if you've never felt that way. And it's like, you're right. I've never been a woman after birth wanting to strangle my kids. I'm sorry that I thought that was bad. You don't think that's bad? No, it's bad, but everybody else is failing her. it's no different than people saying everyone else has failed this criminal who killed 15 people. It's no different. It's like there probably were a lot of people that failed them, but there's also a story of other people that got failed a million times and didn't do that. So that story actually happens way more often. So it's not only possible, it's more popular to not do these things, you know? And if you can't say that, then there's something super wrong. Someone said you didn't lose us. You had a great take. I definitely lost a lot of people, but I I lost people that don't agree. Like I'm being as thoughtful as you possibly can while not giving an inch on what I actually think. And if that loses people, I don't really care. I've watched the video back now twice in this live stream. I didn't say anything that crazy. Like I'm actually like I wouldn't say I'm shocked, but I mean, you had one lady saying she was a good mother. Like, what? I don't know. Like, are you serious? Like, she was a good mother? At one point, I'm sure, but, like, I don't like, I don't know. Do you wanna explain to me how yeah, Aaron Hernandez was a great husband? Like, I'm sure he was a nice guy before he did what he did, but I don't think I like why are you more inspired to explain that than the other side? It's just giving me super like leftist vibes where, you know, anytime someone does something evil, they spend more time defending it than saying it shouldn't be allowed. And that's why we live in like a more evil country because these things are normalized, you know? Like if people have the energy, it's the same with the Republican Party. If people had the energy to call out their politicians, Trump would actually be a good leader. But people are more inspired to defend him, so they get shit on. You know, it's like not even Trump's fault; it's his supporters' fault. Like they're obsessed with getting pissed on, and then they say it's raining. Dan said, if you've never drove drunk, you can't condemn drunk drivers. I literally think it's identical logic. They'll say it's not, but you know, if you've never drove drunk as a woman, it's different. It's like, all right, then maybe you shouldn't drive then, you know, or maybe you shouldn't drink or something, you know, like if it's that different for a woman than a man to have self accountability, then maybe you can't be accountable for yourself. And the one woman admitted earlier that that is how she feels. She thinks it should go back to the day when like men had more autonomy over women. And I really respect that because most women will not admit that like they're like we're wild, we're crazy, you know, but we don't need to be controlled. But that woman was like, no, we do need to be like controlled to some extent, or else we're too crazy. And I'm like, not all women would say that, but if you do, I really respect the honesty of you being honest. All these other women are like, we're insane, we're crazy, but we don't want to be controlled, and we want to do. It's like, well, what is the? So how do we stop this? If you're so different and so crazy at certain times, do we like, you know, if this is a common thing that happens to women after birth? I'm not saying I would want to do this. I'm just saying like should we really check on this and then take a woman away from her kids for how long? Like when do you stop having the thoughts to want to strangle your kids? After a couple weeks, a month, a year, 2 years, 5 years? Like when does this stop for you? And if it never stops, then maybe you should never be get let out. But let us know when this is happening or who it's happening to, because I'm sure there's a lot of mothers who have never experienced that. Have they experienced depression and sadness and a feeling of emptiness and hormones? Of course. But I don't think, you know, I don't think they've gone this far. I'm with Griselda. We've talked about this earlier, but I'm fine with like there needs to be a whole systemic look at big pharma, no question about it. But there's not though, and RFK's doing nothing, Trump's doing nothing. So you know, I like what do we do? Like how do we get big pharma to do something? And is this the catalyst for it? I don't think that this particular topic is going to bring people together enough to take on big pharma, but maybe it can. I don't, you know, I don't know. Someone said our society has normalized prioritizing women's feeling over anything else, including children at all times. Wild. I agree, Sherry. Thank you. I love a female perspective. I do feel that's what it is. And I like that's another thing too. And I hate like I know I've never been pregnant. At least you guys think I've never been pregnant, but I've heard through internet, you know, liberal websites that men can get pregnant now. So if there's a pregnant Bill Gates emoji, then there could be anything. But now jokes aside, you know, I know I've never been pregnant. I've never had postpartum depression, But this does remind me of that, Sherry, where I think, like, as a man, I know I could speak on the men's side real quick. There's a lot of men who experience depression, hardships, bad childhood, or whatever. I'm not saying I've had everything, but like I love my parents and I'm grateful for them. My parents were divorced. Like, I'm supposed to be a statistic of being like raised mostly by my mom. You know what I'm saying? Like a troublemaker. I had times where I was a troublemaker. I did go down certain wrong paths and stuff, but at the end of the day, my mom took as much responsibility as she could, and I took as much responsibility as I could at a certain point. Like, there's always that story. Like, I didn't come from a perfect household. I didn't come from a perfect childhood. I've been depressed. I've done drugs. You know what I'm saying? Not like crazy heavy ones, but honestly, like, I could have easily like died, like, that's my life. But what changed my life was taking accountability, working hard, and getting over it and not making excuses. So if you go into manosphere situations, there's all types of men. There's men like me that are like, yo, like, as a man, don't be a like, yes, I'm not saying that you can't talk about your feelings. We all have them, but work hard, do something. Like, don't do like you make you great. Don't just sit there and use it as an excuse your whole life. And the men who use it as an excuse their whole life, they end up just being like, I don't want to say losers, but they end up being people that their like negative mindset is not only annoying to be around, but it's not that they don't have the potential, they just can't kick the negative mindset. Reading a lot of these comments, I'm not saying everyone's necessarily being negative, but it reminds me of the female version of it. It's like you could find 5 million mothers who said, "Yeah, it sucks giving birth and it's kind of tough after, but I'm a mother of 8 kids and like I figured out how to deal with it and I got better every time." And then you could find a mom who's like, "Yeah, no, I understand the woman who strangled her kids." So it does feel like the female version of like, you could find a bunch of men complaining and being pessimists and being like downers and being like, "Oh, this is why I can't do this, or I can't get women, or they don't like this or that." And then you could find some guy just like them, the same height, the same shape, some guy that's fat, some guy that's this or that, some guy that balded when he was 20 or whatever, that's getting hella women because he has a personality, or he's fun to be around, or he did something with his life and like some woman liked it, or he got married. So it's like you could always compare yourself to other people, but at the end of the day, you either got to just like be a good person, be the best person you could be, or just sit there and complain all the time and just be like a downer and a loser. So it does feel like this is the female version of that, where women are just like sitting there like being like, "Oh, I've been depressed and now I feel bad for women who kill their kids because I was really sad too." And it's like, I get it. Everyone's been sad, but there's a group for everything, including women that just like want to revel in their own pity. And I feel like women do that more than men. I think there's a lot of men who do that. But like, if you walk past a guy on the phone, a lot of times, like, sometimes you're gossiping, but a lot of times you're talking about building companies or doing something, or, like a sport. And when you walk past women, not all the time, because some women are working and they're on business calls, but a lot of time you overhear them and it's some stupid drama about somebody that nobody cares about. And they'll talk about it for like 5 hours instead of actually doing something. So it's like, you could feel bad for yourself. You can do this or that, or you can just like do something and like stop spending so much energy on being like so emotional about things that don't really matter. So I feel like, yeah, it's like every woman should understand that gave birth what it's like to give birth, but not every woman is going to feel that way, And it's like, if a lot do and more do than I thought, then to me, these are women that are like feeling really bad for themselves and not like feeling more bad for themselves than the kids almost, And I think that that's like, a woman who strangles her kids doesn't think about her kids. Like, most women struggle, but then like, my mom struggled, but luckily she didn't strangle me. She, worked really hard and tried to give me the life that she never had. I don't know. Thank you, mom, for not doing that, But some women, it's like, it's all about them. Like, and they're like, "Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for her kids, but what I really feel bad for is her, because I dealt with the same thing. I went through that and I get what it's like. I get how she felt. Everybody failed her. Nobody came to help her. Then why didn't you do that? You didn't do that. How come?" "Well, because I just decided not to and I got my life together." So, but she couldn't do that. "But you did it, but she couldn't do that." "But you could stop yourself from doing that to her kids, but she couldn't." Like I like the justification is like satanic to me. Like I'm just like I literally think it's like demonic, and a lot of people are evil, but it is what it is. I get it a little bit, but it's just what I think. Someone said our government hates all of us. Cutting disabled people's Medicaid is disgraceful. I'm not a fan of the government, but someone said I feel like lots of people don't have a purpose in life. Yeah, I mean it's tough. Like to here's the tough part too is like to people who don't have wives and a family, it feels like they don't have as much purpose. But then when people get wives and families, apparently they're so depressed they want to strangle their kids. And like I thought having a family was supposed to give you purpose. I thought having a mother was supposed to give you purpose because you could find a woman who doesn't have any kids and she's missing that something in her life. But then you have a woman who has kids and clearly she's missing stuff in her life too. So it's like, does this ever end for us? You know what I'm saying? Is there ever like an end to the struggle, or do people just have to deal with it their whole lives? Like I would like to think there's a happy ending, but you could talk to both sides of the equation and see that people are struggling. Some husbands are like, oh, I have a great life. I have kids. I love it. It's the greatest thing that ever happened to me. You meet other people, they got divorced, their wife took half and they said, never get married, stay away from these Jezebels. You're like, okay, well, it's like could go both ways, I guess. But yeah, I mean, similar to how the older generation says, not like you have to be compassionate towards the younger generation and compassionate towards everybody, but I do think like women between 20 or even younger, but like women between 20 and like 40 and 50, like I don't see that many older women justifying this. I think like most women over 60 are like, no, that's insane, don't kill your kids. But I've noticed like a lot of women that are like maybe like 30s and stuff, 40s, they're now I'm not trying to stereotype. I'm just trying to read the room based on everything I was reading. It didn't seem like a lot of older women. It seemed way more like younger to mid-tier women that are like not super super older or grandmas and stuff, and it's like I don't know what's causing that or why they feel that way, but I do think it's a lot of like the circles they're in and like the friends that they have and what they talk about. Like if you listen to advice that other women are giving themselves online, it's not to say that men don't do this too. There's a lot of like idiot red pill guys that are not giving good advice, and then there's some giving good advice. But the women's spheres, like the things that they're telling themselves, it's all just like super super cope. It's where I would say, and I'm not saying that the manosphere is perfect because I don't even listen to it, but the top of the manosphere is telling men to take accountability. It's people like Andrew Tate telling people like stop being a bitch, get your get a Bugatti, get rich, make money, get jacked, get women. I'm not saying it's the perfect advice, but it's like telling guys no excuses. Tony Robbins, no excuses. Gary V, no excuses. Go get it. Like all the top man advice guys are telling people to work hard. A lot of the women groups that they're in on TikTok and stuff, it's all cope. It's like cope about, yeah, you're single. It's not your fault. It's his fault. Maybe that's possibly true, but like, I don't know. If you're super hot and you're super single and no guy likes you, I don't know. At like what point could you take accountability a little bit? I don't know. Like these are thoughts I have for myself too. It's like I'm not like, oh, women are terrible. I'm just like, no, I get it. Like I have high standards. I'm super busy. I work really hard. I don't give that much effort to a lot of women. And, when I date, I guess I'm super picky and sometimes they don't like the way I am. I'm not like, it's all their fault every second of it. But the most of the women stuff, it's the exact opposite of like the Andrew Tates. They're not telling women that they need to be better. It's the exact opposite. It's a bunch of like bitter, miserable women who are terrible role models. And the reason they're so miserable is because they don't act right. And they're telling a bunch of other women to not act right. So now there's like a whole army of women who are like, this is what we all think. And it's like, yeah, doesn't mean you're all right. It just means that's like the world that you're living in. It's like a bunch of women who are not really qualified to be giving life advice like that, giving you advice in things that they're failing miserably at. Like you don't see me hosting a here's what it's like to be a father with 5 kids like segment because I don't do that. Like why would I talk about that? I could tell you about business. I could tell you about the music industry and what I've experienced. I could tell you about getting 950 million views in 90 days and creating an audience and, making my dreams come true to some extent and like networking and getting, attached to people that, appreciate what you do. Like there's things that I could do. I'm good at sports. But like, I don't give advice for things that I'm not like. Matt Walsh would probably give better advice to being a father and a husband because he had kids like really early, you know? But in the women's sphere, it's a bunch of like the worst women telling other women how to be horrible. And they're all like, oh, that makes sense. And I'm like, that's not true. But I don't know though. I definitely think some of it's got to be true. Like there's some things that men are doing that women possibly could, learn and make sure they don't make mistakes. But I think that a good woman like is able to change and a good man is able to change. Like if I find a woman and we hit it off and there's certain bad habits that I have that I know are bad habits and she says, "Hey, you should not do that." I want that. I want somebody that's making me better, but a lot of these like woman sphere things, they don't want that. So it's like a lot of the reason that a lot of these chicks are not getting someone is because they don't want to change. They want to keep doing the same dumb things that they're doing and being annoying or being like completely non-optimal. And they could find a bunch of women saying, no, we want to be free. We want to be powerful. We want to do this by ourselves. We have an excuse for everything, whether you strangle your kids, whether you can't find a husband, whether you do this, whether you do that. It's all their fault. It's all someone else's fault. It's not none of your fault. And then they're like, oh yeah, no, this is what's going on. And then they just become more and more obnoxious and revel into like misery, and then they become even less desirable. Like, yes, it happens on the man side too. I'm not saying it's exclusive to women, but I do think that it's way more popular among the women, and there's not as many like Andrew Tates and Gary V's telling women to do this stuff. Yeah, if you're a woman into business, you could find some lady telling you like how to be an entrepreneur, but as far as like building your character, these people are not just telling you like how to build your character. Like Tony Robbins, Gary Vee, Andrew Tate. Yes, it's like build a business, but really that mindset is not just good for building a business. It's really a pretty good mindset for just being a desirable man to the female, I almost said race, but for women. What the women are telling each other is how to be as not desirable as possible to men and then just blame them for everything. So it's like, it's like comparable to like the incel community on social media where they're like, give up, women are crazy, just do your own thing. At least like Andrew Tate's like, don't give up, just crush. And then, like hang out with your brother because women kind of suck. Like, at least he's saying that. It's not like give up completely because there's no choice. It's like, there's always like hope and there's always good things. But yeah, also like people are also crazy. So there's something true about everything everyone's saying, but yeah, I find a overlap of like those groups and then what women are saying now, because I think they're all being like, yeah, this is what we've all thought, and then it comes to like people and every guy's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that that's what you guys were talking about, like how depressed you were and like strangling kids. Like that can't be the conversation. No, we weren't talking about that, but we do feel really bad for ourselves and we do blame men and we blame, dude, doctors suck, big pharma sucks, but you can't spend more energy on that and have no like energy to call out when someone does something crazy with their own free will. Someone said, I'm telling you, a solid decade without electricity would fix us right up. I mean, to be honest, bro, I like, yeah, that's why like everyone's like, oh, you don't like data centers? Like, yeah, everyone likes data and AI to use it or whatever, but everyone instinctually knows that it's not going in the right direction. And you're probably right. Like all of these things are this like illusion that we're all like doing. But if things ever got primal, things would go in the right direction, like primal. They're already moving in the right direction. So like you can't lie to everybody forever. And I think that this conversation, not just this one, but around the Clancy lady, I honestly, as messed up as what she did is, which I do think it is, like this needed to come out somehow. It's messed up that this is how it came out, but I do think transparency and honesty between the genders leads to, better solutions. Like if you're not honest with your partner, honest with somebody else, how are you ever supposed to fix problems? And I would say too that a lot of like men do this too for sure, but I think more women like they don't want solutions sometimes, and they don't want to like be honest. And then it's like you're just in this loop of like it never fixes itself. So I know there's some men that probably do that too. And if you're a woman that was in a relationship with a guy and he did that, I'm not saying it's exclusive, but that's like how I think about things. If there's an issue, I really want to solve it super fast and like figure it out. But sometimes like women are emotional and they want to solve it, but like if you say something that they don't want to hear, they get mad at it, even if it's true. And then it's like you just get caught in a cycle of not being able to fix it. So it could be frustrating for people that are trying to fix the issues. And there's a bunch of women that like don't want to fix it. And some men too. So it's like, what do you do then? Like if you're married to somebody, then it's a way deeper conversation than if you're single and just looking from the outside in. But in marriages, yeah, I don't know. You're connected, you have kids, these things get more real. And I would guess that a lot of marriages kind of like flake apart because they don't want to solve the issues, or they don't want to break up, but at the same time both sides can't be honest enough to fix the problems. And then the whole thing kind of like the fire diminishes at that point. And that's somebody that's single, that's a scary thought. Like I don't want that to happen. I don't want a woman that wants to strangle kids. I don't want a woman that won't solve problems. I don't want a woman that won't listen to me. I don't want a woman that won't make me better and get me to hear things that I need to hear. Like I don't want that. But it not to make excuses, but I do, and it could have always been the case. I don't know. I wasn't born 100 years ago, so I don't know. But like now, if I'm combining like the pool of like, say you're a guy, right, and you're trying to find the woman that you love, you got to find a woman first of all that isn't like super far left and has the reverse mindset of what I like. That's less than 50% of women. Okay, it's probably like 30% of women, 40% of women. Let's say it's 40%, even though it's not. It's less than that. Most women are liberal. Now you go to the conservative women. I think most conservative women are liberal, even though they're not, but I think they're kind of feminist and they're not really interested. Like so many chicks are like, I like the idea of a conservative man, but they stay single because they can't find a guy that they want to like submit to. So then they just complain about men all the time and never settle with somebody. Like at a certain point, a lot of men do suck and they're not worthy of submission. But if you're doing well as a chick and it's like been like 7 years and you can't find one strong, successful guy or a guy that you like that you want to submit to, it's probably just you not wanting to listen to anybody. Like you're too much of a girl boss, but you wear a MAGA hat. You're like, I'm not a girl boss. I want to be a feminine woman, but I really just want to post about it 50 times a day and not actually do it. It's like, well, that's not going to work. So then I would say that there's like, now I'm down to 10% of women. Now we have the new one is like, do you think it's justifiable, or do you want to make excuses for a woman who strangled her kids, or do you want to, while being honest about the situation on all sides, just put your foot down and say there's literally no excuse for that, none whatsoever? Clearly, that's not a lot of women. That seems like so now now you're down to like less than 5% of women. So it's like that's the most of these conversations that I just am having, they didn't even exist 80 years ago. There was no such thing as like a super liberal woman. Even liberal women were conservative 80 years ago. It's like maybe there were like 5% radicals and 95% of women had common sense. I don't think any woman back in the day was like, yeah, no, that makes sense to do to your kids. So it's like, back in the day, not only did you not have cell phones and technology to scramble everyone's brains, you could just find a woman in your town. You had every woman, and people weren't as fat back then too. So I feel like now that we're fed with all these like preservatives and pharmaceuticals, like more women back then were probably fit just from like eating and walking. Nowadays, like you have to really watch yourself in order to not get fat because we're just being like poisoned from every direction. But with that being said, it's like, not to make excuses or cope, but I feel like back in the day, it was way easier to find somebody that had basic common sense values that like wanted to start a family. Now, like I know, and I'm not trying to hate or anything because I got love for everybody, but a lot of the conservative women that I see on social media, Not to say the conservative men are cool and perfect or whatever, as far as like, oh, it's you're just hating on girls and men suck. Yep, dude, a lot of guys suck too, sure. But I'm just saying, I'm not. I just want to make that clear because I don't want to just act like I'm just hating on one gender and like men are just so cool or whatever. It's not true. But with that being said, like I don't know. Like I don't see a lot of conservative, like the conservative women's like an aesthetic. It's like they're conservative, they post about how they want a husband all the time, but they've posted it 100 times and they still don't have a boyfriend. So it's like, what, how's that possible, especially if you're like hot, like you have like a million options, like how's that, if men has many options as women have, like, I mean, some guys have options, but the average woman or like the slightly attractive woman has like 100 times more options on any dating app or anything than guys. It's just statistically true. How could you possibly be single if you have 10,000 options in your city? You can go on 15 dates a week if you wanted. Like there's got to be something, because most guys, it's not that easy. If it was that easy, every guy that wanted a girlfriend would have one. So there's something like women are doing that it's like they want it, but they don't want it. Um, Someone said, don't be a Nancy Mace conservative. I mean, that is what most conservative women are like. I'm not saying they're all getting sleeve tats, but it's like this cosplay of like, I want this, but I don't want to be the guy. I don't want to. I want this type of guy, but I don't want to be the type of woman that guy wants. And then when I meet that guy, I'm not willing to change, and then he's not going to like me, because it's like, I could solve the issue here now, and I'll call it both ways, because there's like pros and cons to everything. But a lot of the women, especially if like you're a woman who has high standards and what you want, like the things these women want, they want a successful guy that's this and that and this and that, right? So it's like, I don't want to settle unless it's the best of the best. Okay. But if they find that, they don't want to, like, those guys don't want them. They want maybe a chick who looks like them, but they don't want a chick who doesn't listen and acts that way. Like they want, like, guys don't really care about status that much or what you're doing. Like a guy just wants somebody that's pleasant and trustworthy and, is willing to like play their role and be like, joyful. And it feels like once the woman meets a guy like that, they're always like, oh, it didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't work. And it's like, no, I get it. That, that's true to anybody. If things aren't working out, but you have to take a real serious look and be like, why aren't they working out? I could think about relationships in the past where like I'm like, oh, I know why that didn't work out. And in some cases it was me, like I was too young. I didn't think about it. I was selfish. I was pursuing my craft and I wasn't giving any attention. But here's another thing about men and women, and both genders know it's true. There's a weird thing about a woman where like sometimes they really really like you and you give them your attention and they love that, and that's possible, and I think sometimes it's true. But other times it's like women like more when you don't give them the attention. So it's like any relationship in the past that I think back to and I'm like, was I being selfish and all these things even though I should have been giving them more time and attention? But then I'm like, would they even have liked me that much if I was giving them that much time and attention? I'll never know. But it seems to be that like when you don't do that to a girl, she likes you more. And then when you like give more attention and time, they're like, oh, you're giving me the ick. It's like, would you want me to like ignore my text message for 5 days and pretend like I don't see it? Like, that's like the game that sometimes people like a little tug, and psychologically they like a little tug and pull or whatever. So it's hard to really like, I don't know. I think both sides are different. It's really like hard to really connect with somebody and both being like, all right, this is what works for me. So someone said some women hate when you tell them they should submit to their husband. I would say most women don't like that. Nowadays, most women do not like that. 50 years ago, most women knew that's what they wanted too. But there's all the like, even with like what women like sexually, they like guys that are dominant. But then it's like if a guy's actually like literally dominant in like real life, they're like, whoa, it's like they're a feminist in the streets, but in the sheets they're ready for submit. It's like, I get it. I understand, but I don't know. It's a tricky situation out there. And I think technology is making people more distant because you become more comfortable with your routine and less likely to want to change anything you're doing. You're like, I do all these sort of things, so why would I like, you got to really, sweep me off my feet in order to get me to change this or that. Someone said men are that way. I think it's fair. But also I think a lot of men are not like worthy for a woman to submit to. So if there's not a lot of good options out there, then women are not going to want to do it. But this is just my personal thought. I think that like especially a chick that's like super super hot, I just feel like you have so many options. So it's hard for me to believe that like a super hot chick just like can't find the right guy. It's like I don't know, like maybe at a certain point, but there's got to be something you're doing. Like, Giovanna said, Anomaly, you did a great and thoughtful job on this topic. Overwhelmingly demonstrates your inside beauty and love. Don't know this case. Everything is hard, but this is no evil excuse. Disgusting pharma. Thank you, Giovanna. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's a very tricky topic, but I try to do my best. Thank you. Someone said that's because most women do not have husbands today. They're blanks. I mean, it's one way to say it. Nowadays, submission is practically a slur to women. LOL. Yeah, no, most women don't like it. It's tricky. Like I get it, but it's like you want. I've talked about this in the past for other topics, but freedom is good from the government most of the times, but freedom does not make a man or woman great. It's not like liberty to do whatever you want. Like an athlete, like Ronaldo has freedom to do whatever he wants, but it's his discipline that makes him great. So I think both men and women won't admit that they need discipline in certain categories, and they just like want to do a lot of things, but then they don't want to do a lot of things. I'm gonna run, guys. It's been 3 hours. I'm thirsty. I'm out of water, so I don't want to continue. I need some liquid water. I don't know why I said liquid. That was weird, but there's coffee here, but that's the last thing I need right now. Anyway, appreciate you guys. God bless you. Let me know what you think in the comments. This is long enough. I think we could talk in circles forever, but I'll do a political stream later this week. I thought this topic was extraordinarily fascinating. I don't care how many views it gets. I was inspired to talk about it. Thanks for letting me know what you think in the comments. God bless you guys, and I will be